Richard doesn't know we're on yet.
Oh, hello. Oh my.
Oh my.
We've been live for like 20 minutes.
Oh dear.
Oh no, we haven't.
No, I got on. You hadn't seen me yet, and so I just went back to watching shows and listening to Pete belching when he thought no one was listening. Apparently.
Oh no, I don't
enjoying
think
my
he cares
belching.
if people.
No, I don't. Not at all.
That was powerful.
Yeah. Well,
So did you do your homework and watch Endgame this week?
I watched it, but I have to be fully fair. I was like just on in the background. I didn't watch it attentively. I mean, okay.
Is he?
Can you hear him, Rado? He's breaking up for me.
Okay, me too.
Okay.
Okay,
I think
there,
he's
let me.
doing it on purpose, only saying every third syllable though, so he can get out of it.
I hate the Vikings.
Because he watched it again and realized just how amazing it is, and now
it was quite epic, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, how about now? Is it better?
Oh, you sound like
What
the
did
Velvet
you
Swan.
What did you do?
I just switched to a different microphone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, velvety.
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 No,
That's all I can say. It's
Was
velvety.
your other microphone battery backed, and maybe your battery's going dead, or?
I don't know. Just doesn't matter. So no, I did watch it, but as I was saying, I was kind of watching in the background while I was doing some other work, and so I don't have like a timestamp things. But my same problems that I had with the movie. I mean, and before we get into that, I just want to say those are the things I want to talk about before we go dive.
Okay.
Head
I
first
actually got up
into-
early this morning so I could watch it before work. That's how I wanted to enjoy it fully because haven't seen it.
But see, that's like it. I mean, it's just like I knew I'm going to go into this with like complete and total fanboys that are like, and like, Marvel movies.
If it helps at all, I haven't actually seen it for, gosh, I don't know, since probably a month after it came out on Blu-ray.
Okay, so I am going to point out some when we get later on. I'm going to fully admit that there are some plot points that I think just fail for me. Like I'm wondering why is that okay? Why is that okay?
We'll get into that later.
And then I'm sure Pete will say, no, actually, according to something, it actually is fine. You know, that sort of thing. Hey, I gotta know.
I mean, well, let's put it this way: it's no Rise of Skywalker, but we'll talk about it later.
But what is?
So Richard,
or a Duel of the Fates.
Did the guy that does that what happened thing? Did you watch the video?
He had never reached out to me. I did watch it. He had, or somebody from there had contacted me about Bubsy, and if I recall correctly, we just chatted on Skype and he took notes. And so I have no idea why he didn't reach out to me for this. I mean, it's weird too. He keeps liking to use that whole "I'm through with this shit, I'm out of here" quote. He used it in the Bubsy one, then he used it here and to call me a curmudgeon. But I remember that conversation, and we were laughing and joking around when I said it. But the way he presents it, it's like I'm just a bitter, broken man. Like, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. And like, I can't believe it. I'm done with this shit. Was basically the way it was said, if you took it in context. So it's weird.
So it's nuanced, but and maybe that's why, because I reached out to him. I said, hey, I mean, if you don't know how to get a hold of him, I can. He'd love the chance to talk to you about.
Oh man, I've been. And it was interesting too to see it because apparently several other people have done interviews about it in the ensuing years, and I didn't know about any of that stuff. But man, I've got more to say than everybody else combined. I have so much inside, behind the scenes, inside baseball kind of stuff to talk about there. And
are you legally held in any way, shape, or form that you couldn't say something?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the statute of limitations is longer. I mean, but no, there's an equal amount of, well, hey, here's the stuff I fucked up on. I'd be more than happy to talk about that. And there's an equal amount. Yeah, Bethesda Softworks was literally trying to drive us out of business by withholding milestone payments and then offering to say, oh, well, we'll just take over your payroll for you. How about that? I mean, that is literally a conversation that was had between our president and their president. We called to say, hey, we delivered our milestones. Why have you not paid us for 3 months? Oh, because you're trying to drive us out of business, which, by the way, we've talked to everybody else who works with you. You do it to everybody. And nobody talks about it in public, but we all know this. If you're not in Bethesda, you're shit, and they're trying to destroy you so they can basically absorb you. And so there's a lot of that. But I don't know. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, that doesn't have that much to do. There's some of that stuff directly impacted the game, but that was just more the behind the scenes stuff that I was on the board of directors for the company, so we had to deal with that on a fairly regular basis, which was fun. But
well, I mean, it's too bad that it sounds like that would be a much, but that
I would give him so
you would,
much good content. I can't believe he can reach out for me.
But I mean, okay, so if people don't know what we're talking about, it's like it's Matt Muscle or Matt McMuscle or Mr. McMuscle or something. It's a pretty well put together YouTube channel where they do deep dives into what happens when like video game creation goes wrong, and they've done a few episodes on stuff that Richard was a part of, and they just posted one recently. And you and I, we've talked about Brink here a few times, you know, and I saw that they posted one on Brink, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be sweet." They must have talked to Richard. Then I realized that they didn't talk to you at all.
It's so weird.
But maybe that doesn't. Maybe he figures since he misquoted you or Nuance misquoted you, he thought maybe you wouldn't want to talk or something.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, because I gotta assume he is knowingly using that quote in a certain way because it gets him more hits and it makes for a more clickbaity video.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that was not the. I mean, that's one little sentence taken out of context of a greater conversation and presented in a very different way. But I don't mind. I mean, honestly, the first time I saw that he did, I was like, oh, that's on me. I should have known better. I do know better. I have been media trained. I'm just way out of practice. And I forgot everything's on the record and anything can be used any way they want. I just didn't expect it from a video game YouTube dude.
Yeah, in a there was a I mean, this is a wrestling quote, but I mean, there's a fairly Mick Foley, the hero of hardcore wrestling or whatever. He went in. There was a big to do about backyard wrestling and kids jumping on trampolines and hurting each other. And there was this big thing where it was like, oh, well, this is something bad. And so he went on 60 Minutes or 2020 and they showed him these two clips, and they showed him one clip where it was just these kids ages 12 to 16 jumping on trampolines and giving each other body slams but bouncing and laughing. And they said, well, what do you think of that? And he says, I thought that looks like a lot of fun, right? And then they showed him another clip of maybe 16 to 19-year-olds who were jumping off of garages and landing on each other and going through tables and each other and things like that. And he's like, that's horrific. Nobody should be doing that. And then when they showed the actual thing, they misplayed. They put the two quotes.
Yeah,
they edited it so basically he was saying, "Oh, that looks like a lot of fun," showing these kids breaking fluorescent light bulbs across the backs of each other and stuff like that. And he was like, "That looks like a lot of fun," just So I mean, he was just like, "I need to sue them," and Vince McMahon said, "You can't. They can take it and edit it however they want." Yeah. And they can do whatever they want with anything. So, yeah. So there you go. I do have grievances that are, and one is actually board game related that could actually spur. I'm kind of glad that you're here. I was kind of hoping Scott would be here, but Scott can't join us because he's got the Board Game Geek retreat where he's got 20 people coming into town.
And he's preparing for that.
Yeah, our invites must have got lost in the mail.
I got mine. I just refused.
Oh, nice. As Anthony Ricano would say about BGG Con, it's like, Scott, I'm still waiting for my car. You sent the car to pick me up, right? Take me to the airport. No, I don't know what it is. He kind of alluded to it, but he said next week for sure. He felt bad that he hasn't been on recently. But so one grievance that has nothing to do with it. Getting old stinks. Yesterday, I don't know what, I woke up and my left hip felt I don't know what. I mean, I couldn't sit, I couldn't stand, I couldn't walking up the stairs made me want to scream.
Said to poke you.
Oh, no, and it was just my wife was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "My leg feels like it wants to fall off," and then I couldn't sleep. It was just I was like, this is what getting old is. You just how did I do this? I sat down wrong or something and pulled a muscle in my leg. I just, that's what happens when we get old, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm fearful for the day I sit down on my balls. When they get that old, then I know I've arrived.
You've not got there yet?
Nope, not yet. Thankfully.
I've not gotten there either at 50. But I will say, normally I wouldn't have a grievance, but since you mentioned that, I do have one, Lance. A few days ago, Jen and I went to see about LASIK, the old monovision.
There you go.
And turns out I am not a viable candidate.
Oh, why
are you not a viable
candidate? It turns out my left eye is abnormally dominant. Much more so than average people. And so when he did the whole thing and he said, "Oh yeah, look, see, you can see the distant, now you can see up close." I could see that what was up close was in focus, but it was like I was looking through a porthole, and only in the center was firm, and everything around it, just looking through my eyes was blurry. And he said, "Yeah, that's your left eye is so strong that even though your brain is trying to shut it down, it will not be denied, and it's pushing its out of focus stuff over the top of my in focus." What's the opposite of dominant eye. And so he said, "Yep, this happens occasionally." And so, yeah, you cannot do it. He thinks I could go ahead and do the thing anyway, and maybe I could train my brain to try to shut down some of my left eye dominance. But he offered me no assurance that would even be remotely possible. So I am a glasses guy for the rest of my life, which sucks because I hate.
Could you get both of your eyes fixed to see distance and then just wear reading glasses? I wonder.
Yes, I could, and that's what he suggested. Well, this is what you could do, and he showed me what that would be like, and it basically means okay, anything here is just pea soup, and I see no reason to do that because the reality is right now I've got decent near vision, and I found this. I didn't realize this. It turns out I almost am not allowed to drive without corrective lenses. I'm right on the edge of my distance vision being bad enough that they would turn me down. So, and I mean, I don't drive very often. I don't need distance vision very often. I use near vision all the freaking time.
You and I have very similar eyesight then, because I can read up front just fine, but my distance vision's not crisp anymore.
Yeah.
And a year ago when I got my license renewed, I was reading that last line. I was like, 3-7 E 8
Niner.
And the lady says, "Good enough." And I'm like, time to go to the eye doctor. I passed a butt barrel.
Yep.
So.
Lord Javi actually has a question for us. He said, "I have a question for the Alaboom. Is Magic the Gathering the only CCG that will be profitable and have staying power, since now Star Wars Destiny is now a dead game?"
No.
No. Pokemon.
I believe Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon are still in the top sellers list across the country, even though they're not ones I would play.
Those are the other two.
But
every distribution solicitation I see is always promoting Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon as like
Yu-Gi-Oh! Gets played. The weird thing is Pokemon doesn't really get played. It's more
it's collectors and stuff.
It's collectors collecting the cards.
Oh, really?
But yeah, those are the top three games: Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh.
But Yu-Gi-Oh gets played. Yu-Gi-Oh definitely gets played. There's Yu-Gi-Oh nights at my favorite local game store. So
was Destiny even a spit in the corner of Magic though?
No, no. Different crowd. It was more
Star Wars CGG from like 15 years ago that I played, or it must be some new one.
Destiny was the dice and cards game.
Oh, that one. Right.
They officially announced its last expansion is coming up this month, and it's dead. They're done producing it after that.
That's the lifespan of any of those. I mean, I guess like the
Imperial Assault. They finished up last year and said no more content for that. They're just slowly weeding out the older properties so that they can bring in new ones. They don't want to compete against themselves. So
that's the question I wanted to ask: is Fantasy Flight in a downturn?
I don't know. I think what they're doing is they're tightening up. That's all. They laid off some people. They're going to cut a few dead games, and they're going to recenter, refocus, and then start going back out again. I mean, if they want to produce like a LCG for Star Wars, they got to get rid of Destiny first, or it's going to compete against itself. And I think they're trying to. I mean, they kind of died out the old Star Wars LCG. So my bet is that they're probably going to do some kind of Marvel or like the Marvel card game. They're going to do like a Star Wars LCG, like a cooperative version of it, and maybe that's why they're killing all this other stuff. Or they just want to tighten it up.
I'm so bored and tired of card games. It's just like
the Marvel one's real good though. I that's reinvigorated my love for the card game. It's the only one that I care about.
You know, I was at my local game store, and there's a guy there that's got a bunch of the cards, and he's like, "You want to play?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I guess it was fun, but I had no desire whatsoever to race off and buy a bunch of cards and start up my own thing. I just recently, like, I was digging through the slow reclamation of my basement. I found all of my Keyforge decks, and like probably 20 of them. Just contacted a buddy that my wife works with, and I was like, "Hey, do you want these?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." Just like, "Here you go." You know, they're all sleeved. Everything's.
I got a ton of Keyforge decks.
I mean, it's just
I need like 5 of them, and I've got like 100.
Yeah, just gave those up and stuff like that. But anyway, here's my grievance that's like board game related. So, recently, I had a couple of buddies over, and I was like, "Hey, let's just play a game." And they're like, and I was like looking through games that I had picked up in 2019 that I hadn't played yet, and like there was Marco Polo 2 just sitting there, and I was like, "All right, cool." I played Marco Polo 1. I don't know how many years ago. I mean, whatever. And I dug it out. We punched it, and it's a game I picked up at Essen, but I just hadn't got a chance to play it. So we set it up. One of the guys even said like Marco Polo was like one of his favorite games when it came out, and he's like, "Oh, this one's got like jade in it," and I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm trying to remember my Marco Polo game or two that I played before. So we set it up. We start playing. It's like, if you don't know what Marco Polo 2 is, it's basically you have your little trader person that he goes from like city to city, and like the cities have like certain powers and abilities on them. Depending upon what character you're playing, you have certain powers and abilities. It's you go here, collect resources, you turn said resources into points somehow. And there's lots of different ways to do that. There's lots of different ways to get points. It's a fairly straightforward Euro. It's just kind of like a victory point puzzle. And so about 2/3 of the way through the game, I had figured out the puzzle for my particular character. My particular character, he could travel easily, but he can only travel one spot at a time. And so sometimes, and getting to cities is you need to get to cities to basically put your trading post down to get points. And then if you have a trading post in the city, then you can use the city's special power. So the whole thing with my guy, though, he can travel super easy, but he can only move one space at a time. So I was always looking for ways to break the rules, basically, to move more than one space. And so I kind of figured out his puzzle. And I ended up scoring more points than the other two people combined. And it was just like, and I got done with it, and I was just kind of like, I've never had less fun being really good at a game in my life. And I was just like, this is like the most safe Euro design of all time. I mean, it's like every single bit of it. It looks very pretty. It's very well play tested. There aren't any like problems. I mean, the rules are impeccably written. The components are absolutely beautiful. I mean, all of like you have camels, and you have spices, and they're all big and chunky and wood, and they are just really awesome. But I mean, I was just like, this is like the most boring game of all time, and this is like I'm so annoyed at games like this that are like incredibly adequately made, but no risk was involved in the creation of that game at all. It was just like they contacted the designers and say, spit out a victory point game for us, and they're like, there you go, here it is. And then I posted that onto Twitter, and I had like other like reviewers saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you are so disenfranchised with the industry. I hope you can find the spark again sometime." And I'm like, I do all the time. Games like Unsettled that like take a chance, and like Unsettled has really, really basic resource-driven risk choices. It's been done before, but it's the world that they put you in, and the narrative and the experience that makes it fun. This was just pushing these little. I mean, Carpe Diem, which I played with Richard at BGG-Con. It's a very straightforward. You got to collect this to make this, turn that into points. But there's like a player interaction, and there's a tension there.
Yeah.
That makes the game fun. Where like and the thing is like it just seems like those games are created for people to just be totally have analysis paralysis, because like you say, I need 3 more gold bars so I can turn this little disc in that's going to be worth 8 victory points for me. How am I going to get these 3 gold bars? And then now I'm going to deduce this pattern of actions, and then people are like, it's your turn. I know, but I got to figure out how to get these 3 gold bars, and then people just start staring at the board, and like 2 minutes go by. And I don't care about waiting, but it's just like, I always feel like when I'm trying to deduce my problem, I'm wasting people's time, but I don't want to make a suboptimal move either. I just detest boring game design. And I don't want to name drop, but I finally got to meet and talk to Martin Wallace at BGG-Con, and he said something that was fantastic. And he said that he said big time publishers don't take any risks, and they make boring games. They make boring, safe games, but it is the small publishers that are like willing to go on a limb and create something you haven't seen before. Those are the ones people need to keep their eyes on. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And this is from a guy who's created tons of games and who's totally made boring, safe designs himself. But I think Martin Wallace has gotten to a point where he can kind of see I can't speak for the man, but I mean, I think he's kind of...
Yeah, you saw him at that panel that you were moderating.
Yeah, and it was just like, I believe, I don't want to like say I know for sure, but I think he sees like the board game world kind of moving away from his little niche, and it's being taken away from him in some weird way, like he. Well, yeah,
in the same way, I'm sure the directors, avant-garde movie directors from the 70s saw the success of Jaws and then Star Wars, and then this is redefining what cinema is. Cinema is now big, bombastic. Just throw a bunch of stuff and turn movies into a roller coaster ride. It's no longer, thoughtful, quirky, offbeat, what we've been doing and what we came up on. And doesn't mean that, you can't have fun, cool, big, bombastic things. I mean, it's when you say boring, I don't think that's fair. When you say safe and by association boring, I think that's totally fair. Because I haven't played Marco Polo 2, but I loved Marco Polo 1. And the thing I loved about it was it made you work really hard. And when I saw reviews for Marco Polo 2 starting to come out, and everybody said, oh, yeah, this is clearly the better one because I feel like I can get so much more done, and it doesn't really punish me quite so much. Like, oh, it's probably going to be weaker then, isn't it? Because they probably just straightened off the rough edges to try to make it more, mass appealing. And it sounds like from what you're describing, that is exactly what has happened.
Well, I know. I was just like, I was so bored. I'm like I said, you totaled up the other 2 players' total points. I had more than them. I mean, I just ran away with the game.
I have a question, and this is serious, and it's going to sound like a smart-ass question. But did you really expect the title to do anything interesting, unique, or innovative?
Well, the thing is that there's lots of sequels to games that don't just totally rest on the shoulders of the sequel either, of the game.
But
before.
Usually, if it doesn't have a very strong connection, then people are going to be disappointed. It's like, why wasn't this just a different game? So when you're looking at it too, most people are thinking, I want more of the same with a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean like I said,
just released a new board and character pack.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just it was, that game was made to sell 5,000 games and to be forgotten. And it just seems like if it's a big name game company, and we all know the names of these, it's just like if it's a big name game company, I mean, it's they gotta keep churning out these cardboard pushing games. I mean, it's just like and it seems to me. And that a lot of these games get very, they become like darlings, I guess, is the, oh my gosh, this game is just so amazing, you know, and just like, and I'm like, I'm so bored. I am so very, very bored. You know, it's like I was playing this when you know, this probably would have been like avant-garde design 7 years ago or something. But I mean, we've moved into a point where it's just like these games are, and we just keep spitting these games out one after the other. And it's ridiculous. I don't know. I find that like the games, like everybody's complaining right now that there's all these really, really cool Kickstarters that are launching this week, and that's something we can probably talk about here in a little bit.
It's fracking expensive.
Yeah, so like Shiver Me Timbers, which is a game that, you know, I was lucky enough to be able to play, and it was really fun. And that's a game that like is on, and it funded already, which I'm super happy for him.
I am too.
Yeah, he went back to the drawing board and definitely dove back in. I mean, if anybody was a fan of Sid Meier's Pirates, the video game, that board game is Sid Meier's Pirates, the board game. So
what did he change between the previous campaign?
I think he just like he might have taken a few steps back as far as the number of plastic components being added to the game. So and having those get uncovered with stretch goals. Yeah, drop the cost of the game. Because he had, I think his original one was 100K is what he wanted, and this one's 25,000. So it's just like he definitely drew back. I mean, I'll still say I can still remember the very first time. This is like 9 years ago when the first Zaya was designed, and like the guy was like, yeah, his funding goal was like 100,000 or 90,000 or 100. I was like, oh Jesus, you're not going to get it, dude. And bam, I remember when he got it, I was like, oh, that's awesome. You know, I mean, that was like one of my very first Kickstarter videos I ever did.
That game was neat.
It is very neat.
But it's great, but it's
no, it's Project Elite, the board game, basically. You know, just fly out there and do whatever you want.
I want to be positive. I got a Kickstarter game.
Oh, what was it?
Positive. I got Isle of Cats.
Oh yeah.
And I played it, and I am not disappointed at all. I love this game.
Yay! Phew!
It is one of the best polyomino games I've played, I think.
Oh, it's the best game you've played, period.
Wait, polyamorous?
Okay, what? Polyomino.
Polyominoes. It's got card drafting. It's got cat drafting. It's got placing polyominoes. It's got
doesn't it even have a spot for your actual cat to sit?
And it's got a spot for your cat to lay in the box.
I thought that was funny.
No, it was really well done. I'm very happy to get a Kickstarter that I'm not disappointed with something in it. So
with my new position at Gray Fox Games, I've taken over a lot of the customer support stuff, and I'm getting into the company right when there's like a late Kickstarter and stuff like that is you know, just like in a process, you know, with Reavers and Midgard, and my boss he sent me a picture, Shane. Like there's been some angry backers just because there's been some mistakes and stuff like that, like component problems and stuff like that, and people are, you know, upset, you know, because they want X and they got Z or whatever. But somebody sent to the Gray Fox Games home office. It was just a cardboard box, and it was addressed to Gray Fox Games. And inside, like, you know, the candy runts, you know what I'm talking about? Those little hard, like chalky candies that are shaped like bananas and apples and whatever, and they're horrible, right? Well, this was a big giant bag of little candy bits that were penises. It was called Bag of Dicks.
That's just like the Antonio Brown video.
Yeah. So, somebody sent the Gray Fox Games home office a bag of dicks, and it was like, that's what it was. Apparently, and I went, yeah, you can get them online. You can get a big old bag of, and then they'll send it to whoever you want. So you can send somebody.
So you can eat it.
Bag of these. But yeah, I thought that was fun. And good for them. You know, like, you know, it's just like, you know what? I'm upset. Instead of going and blasting people anonymously on the internet, I'm gonna
I too have a board game related grievance.
Oh, what is it?
So this is it's not a horrible experience, but I also received a Kickstarter this week that had a very disappointing component to it that was supposed to be upgraded and was more of a downgrade to the point where I'm actually not even using it. So I got my copy of Consumption in this week from Colossal. And one of the upgraded components was supposed to be these wooden tiles that will replace the cardboard tokens. The wooden tiles are so thin that they look like potato chips. And you have to sticker them double-sided. And there's like 400 of these. So you get this giant bag of really thin, brittle tiles that I basically could snap in half if I wanted to. And you're supposed to spend the time to double sticker them, and the nice cardboard pieces that come in the game stock are pre-colored, pre-graphicked, and were thicker than the actual upgraded tile that you're supposed to get. And I'm like, this has got to be a mistake. And I went to BGG and saw there was plenty of other people that shared my sentiment that the upgraded tiles that cost more money to get weren't worth the bag that they were put in. So I don't know the percentages, but a lot of people said they weren't going to use them. And I am also on that train. I think it was probably one of the worst upgraded component purchases I've ever had. Don't know about the game. Game looks great. The rest of the game looks great. But for something that's supposed to be upgraded to be thinner and more brittle and unstickered at a premium price compared to the actual cardboard that comes in the retail version of the game was a little disappointing. If you're going to do an upgrade, if it's going to be upgraded, it needs to be better than the original component. In my book.
Colossal Butterfly game.
Oh, Papillon. Those butterflies are brittle too.
Hot garbage.
Yeah, those I haven't played the game yet.
Butterflies all fall apart.
The butterflies, I had to glue almost all my butterflies back together. By the time I got them, they were just laying in the bottom of the box, all detached.
Those components are so shitty.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in both of those games actually, but I had Papillon a while ago, so I kind of forgot about it by now. But I was disappointed in the upgraded component for Consumption. Anyone else that got them, if you agree with me, post in the comments below.
Yeah, you said Travis left, right?
I was just going to say.
I did hear that, which is why I have no problem talking about it.
Week here.
The 17th is his last day.
Yeah, since he's leaving, I'll shit all over it now, so I don't care.
Yeah, I would not try to crap on anybody who's on the show.
Anyway, but
and I'm sad to hear that because I was a big fan of Colossal, mainly because of Travis, and Western Legend is easily one of my favorite. It's in my top 10 games.
Western Legends is cool.
Western Legends is amazing. I got to play it this last weekend, and I love it. But the last couple games I've gotten have been a little bit disappointing. So I haven't gotten Eclipse yet. That one's late. It should be coming soon. But, like I say, hopefully Consumption, the gameplay is good. But, yeah, the component was a little lackluster.
Yeah. So there's that then. I was... Anybody else play anything recently they want to talk about?
The only thing new I played was Isle of Cats, and I played Gintis tonight again.
I guess I got a second grievance. I didn't play this. As I bought what I thought was the Suburbia Kickstarter collector's edition that was supposed to have like the metal coins and the wood upgraded pieces and stuff.
But it was just the
retail version that didn't have any of that. Yeah, and I could have gone on eBay and bought the super duper Kickstarter version for the same price as I paid for this very uninspired retail version. So now I'm trying to sell my Suburbia so I can buy the one I wanted.
So did they send you the wrong one?
No, it was advertised as the Suburbia collector's edition as seen on Kickstarter, but it wasn't a Kickstarter version. It was the retail version of the Suburbia that was on Kickstarter.
Oh, okay. So it was
$160 game comes with no wooden components, no metal coins, just cardboard and at that price, if you're calling it collectors, it should be a collector's. It's basically just the game with all the expansions boxed in one thing.
And me, I'll scribble on it and it'll be a true collector's edition.
It boggles my mind because it's the same price roughly as what the Kickstarter version was. So I'm surprised that they didn't keep some of those upgraded components in the retail version like a lot of other places do. Like sometimes you unlock it and it unlocks it for the retail. And if you're going to call this a collector's edition, it kind of has to be above like just compiling the rest of the games together. And the fact that it doesn't include wooden meeple components, which aren't extremely expensive to produce. And the metal coins, I can understand that, there's some things that are a lot more expensive, but for a collector's edition at that price point, it was very underwhelming. I've gotten a lot better value out of $100 games, let alone $150, $160 games. And considering that to buy it on Kickstarter would have been the same price, maybe a little bit more to get those extra components, it was pretty disappointing. So there it is. Oh, son of a bitch. Keith, you mother... Yeah, and my hunt for Aquatica is still running dry. I've been searching websites all over the place to try to get a copy, and the only place I can find it is on Fun Again for $100. So Keith keeps sending me messages of pictures of all the shark cards in Aquatica. Thanks, Keith. Yes.
I figure if you're gonna bitch, I might as well give you something else to bitch about.
Yeah, great.
It's not even that good of a game. I mean, it's cute for a play, but after that,
Yeah,
I realize.
Old discount codes that work on the Fun Again website to get that game down to a reasonable price?
No.
Pete will like that game.
I will like the game. That's the problem.
That game
the game
has
was
cool
made.
Components and cool mechanisms.
Yeah. I don't have to love it. I just have to like it enough, and the fact that it features a Meg as one of the cards in there, it's going to be a game I'm going to want. I have an entire Calyx shelf of aquatic games.
All right. So, did we wanna try to dive into?
I'm ready. I did my homework.
Avengers Endgame. Do we really want to do this? Can I offer up two notes before we start?
Do we have a choice?
Well, you are the driving force here, I think.
Okay. Well, so very, very, very briefly, I would like to say. So I sat down, and obviously I can't watch Rise of Skywalker unless I go to the movie theater again. But I mean, I sat down and I started, just rewatching. Richard, I went back into the prequels and I looked and I considered Qui-Gon Jinn as in the light that you actually described him. So I really appreciate the way that you presented it, because the way that he's the one that he's like you've made the Jedi have been around for so long, they're stagnant, and we have it down to a science, and he's more of this kind of going back to a spiritual idea. And I kind of approached it and watched it with that light, and I don't know if that was the intent or anything like that, but watching them and watching Qui-Gon in that light, I mean, that made a lot of sense. It actually, the midichlorians thing didn't bother me as much as before,
that's awesome. I that's what everybody misses out. I mean, the midichlorian thing is an indictment of the Jedi. It's it wasn't George Lucas saying, "Look, this is amazing. Now you know the answer." It's like, no, this is endemic of their problem, that they sought this answer and lost connection. Yeah, it's why it's such a shame. Did you see the summary of what Colin Trevorrow's Episode 9 was going to be, that has now leaked and been confirmed?
No.
What was it? Fucking awesome.
So what was it? If you can give us the rundown.
Well, let's see. I mean, there's one really long 2-hour video, which I haven't watched. I watched another video that a guy did that just kind of gave high points. But the main thing is the movie picks up immediately after Last Jedi. And
this is for certain. This isn't just fan fiction.
Read the new crawl, because the new crawl was actually even cool. Let's see, what was it? Duel of Fates new crawl. Let's find it. All righty. Oh, people I have already now turned it into an official Star Wars one, so you can watch it with the sound and all that and the music. Right, here it is. Come here, you. Okay, where is it? The iron grip of the First Order has spread to the furthest reaches of the galaxy. Only a few scattered planets remain unoccupied. Traitorous acts are punishable by death. Determined to suffocate the growing unrest, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren has silenced all communication between neighboring systems. Led by General Leia Organa, the Resistance has planned a secret mission to prevent their annihilation and forge a path to freedom. So, I mean,
that's a much better crawl just right out of the gate. That's way better than what we got.
The dead speak.
I mean, so do we know for certain this is real? I mean, like,
this has been confirmed by multiple sources. Yes, that this was a working script. It was written before Carrie Fisher died, because she had a very large part to play, and and of course, obviously, it would have had to change radically. Plus, it hadn't really gone through extensive studio notes, so it was an early rough of his. But so it picks up right after the that opening mission they're on. It's, hey, let's get the gang together. Poe, Ray, and Finn, and Rose. She was also part of the gang now, and it was them working to basically hijack a Star Destroyer that had been decommissioned, because at the end of the last movie, the rebels had nothing. So, it's the standard Star Wars hijinks to get the thing going. They succeed, and that becomes their base of operations for the entire movie. And everybody has interesting stuff to do. Apparently, Rose has a major, she's a big player in resolving, the final conflict, the final act. A sizable portion of the movie takes place on Coruscant, and you're getting to see for the first time in the sequel trilogy what is happening to the rest of the galaxy. What is the First Order's impact on everybody? And Finn, his main thing that he does, having at the end of Jedi grown and realized there's more to just the universe than him and his friends. He wants to be part of something bigger. His main thing is he actually leads a mass stormtrooper rebellion, that they are inspired by him and turn against the First Order. So that's a major thing for him. And the Emperor obviously doesn't come back, but Kylo is actually, it's another interesting thing. Kylo has let Hux run things from Coruscant, and Hux has developed this kind of obsession with Force artifacts. And in fact, at one point in a big part of fan service, he actually finds a purple lightsaber and uses it to kill somebody. But so he has more interesting stuff going on. There's a more deep into him, because he still hates Kylo, and is kind of incapable of doing anything with the Force himself, but is kind of obsessed with it. How can he use it to take Kylo out? But Kylo spends the majority of he has spent all the time between the two movies on Mustafar studying, because he's completely gone bad. There's that's what he decided at the end of Jedi. I reject everything. So he spends a lot more time studying. He does end up finding something that leads him on a quest to go find an old Sith planet. And he ultimately meets the Sith master who trained
Palpatine.
Palpatine. And so, that ultimately becomes, the driving force that Rey's got to get to there. Rey, still reeling from the fact that she comes from nobody, and the movie makes that clear. Yes, she comes from nobody. She has no place in this story. It's caused her to kind of be, kind of lost. And Luke is a very active Force ghost trying to lead her through that. But Luke spends an equal amount of time basically haunting Kylo, because, his last line in Jedi was, "I'll be seeing you, kid." And so, he is basically, the angel on both of their shoulders. And so he's much more involved. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It was going to be a really big movie with a lot more reverence and appreciation for what has come before. And the fact, and what really impressed me was, obviously, Trevorrow understood what you were just talking about, the overarching themes that Lucas was going for, because in the end, I've only just heard this once. In the end, after Rey, does succeed, she does it because of her connection with the Force, and how it's the Force that binds everyone together. And she doesn't draw her strength from, 1,000, generations of Jedi. She draws strength from all her friends. And which I think is a much more meaningful and audience-pleasing thing than just a bunch of voices that half the audience doesn't even recognize, and it's just fan service type stuff. So it ties into the theme of the Force is something that binds us and joins us. She does die in her final confrontation, and I could see why some people would think it's far too Harry Potter-ish. She ends up in the afterlife. She basically ends up as the potential to become a Force ghost herself, and she is greeted effectively by Luke and Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oddly, which was very surprising. I guess they would have gotten Ewan McGregor to do that. Maybe it's because they were trying to prepare for the TV show tie-in. I don't know. And they talk about how Yoda specifically has a line about how you have taught us a lot because the way she was ultimately able to succeed is because, Luke was saying, bottle that anger, just focus on calm and peace. And she said, no, I'm going to use it all. I'm going to use my anger and I'm going to use my love and bring it together. That's what allowed her to win. And she actually kind of transcended, became a pure conduit for the Force than we'd ever seen before because she was truly in balance. She accepted both sides. And so when she went into the Force Beyond, Yoda says, learned a lot from you we have because we were so dogmatic. We were so all about, denying that half. And clearly you have proven this is what one's use of the Force was always supposed to be. That it wasn't just about balance between the Jedi and the Sith. It was balance within all of us. And I thought that was very, very impressive. Kylo's last words to her as he was dying, because he did get kind of similar to what Skywalker did. He got kind of a redemptive last minute. He kind of brings her back. I don't quite understand how that worked. But the last thing he tells her is, your name is Rey Solano or something like that, and told her what her family's name was. Just some random name, and she takes ownership of it. She finally knows who she is and where she comes from. And now she carries forward that, telling new stories in a new galaxy, with setting up a new, I don't know if it's a Jedi thing or setting up something new. And Broom Boy is one of her first students, as a bit of fan service for Last Jedi fans. So it's radically different. There are certain things that overlap, like, there is still a Sith planet. That's a big part. And, obviously, it was a major part, the notion of Finn leading a rebellion from within, inspiring his fellow stormtroopers to rebel. And they took that idea, but just kind of totally botched it in what we got. Because they just mentioned, oh, by the way, we used to be stormtroopers too, and we didn't even know who you were. And apparently, C-3PO gets a really big moment. He gets, after 9 movies, his true hero moment where he has to basically kill another droid. But apparently, it's played fast because the whole time he's like, "Oh, I'm so very sorry, I have to do this, but you really understand me." And so he's fully hamming it up. That sounds like it would have been a really cool scene. And so it's a shame. It's a real shame. I'm not doing it justice. I was really impressed by the reading of the guy who has actually read it. It hasn't, the actual text itself hasn't leaked, but 2 guys who independently have gotten the leak did summaries of it, and it sounded amazing. Of course, it couldn't have happened because they would have had to change a lot with Carrie Fisher, but still, It sounded like the true culmination. He actually paid attention as to what the overarching themes were of the entire previous 8 movies and came up with a truly satisfying thing that makes you say, "Okay, yes, this is truly the end of that saga," and it opens up the door and lets us go anywhere.
It doesn't sound worse.
The end of Last Skywalker, where we are literally now in the exact same place we were at the end of Return of the Jedi, and literally nothing has changed other than the names of characters. Sorry, I was really excited about it, which I shouldn't be because it'll never happen.
Well, somebody might. You never know. If
I
a bunch of
to the comic book
yes
series, that would be pretty cool.
No, I mean, just we talked a lot about Star Wars, but I wanted to say that I think as bad as man, God, that last movie is just so bad. And I mean, and the thing was, I found myself actually like watching 4, 5, and 6, and I was just like, and it even though I was like, oh, these are like kind of like an old pair of sneakers, these feel nice, but I was also like, oh, I know what comes after this though. I just like it does ruin it a little bit. But one thing that I forgot to say, so because, and this is another reason why I despise 7, 8, and 9 so much, is you see Force Ghost Yoda call down lightning from the sky. Admittedly, it's in the Jedi stronghold, so maybe the Force is stronger there or whatever.
Yeah.
You see Luke being able to send his ghost here, there, and everywhere to talk to whoever, catch things. So here's my question: if you're a Jedi, why bother being alive? I mean, it's like you go become a Jedi ghost, and you get to do everything and live forever, and you have all the same powers, and you're more powerful than you were. Why bother even being alive? I mean, just like as soon as you achieve, you like the second after you are now a Jedi Master, like evaporate, go into the ether. And
you'll never have a really good blue milk ever again.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
well, what happened to all the other Jedi? Right? There's only this handful of ghosts.
There's only. In the prequels, they made it clear that's one of the things that made Qui-Gon was so in touch with the true nature of the Force. He was the first Force ghost in a millennia, and he taught, basically Yoda and Obi-Wan, and that's pretty much it. Are there any more official Force ghosts besides now Luke?
Anakin.
Oh, and of course Anakin. Yes, yeah, right.
But Anakin, who taught it? Well, I guess Obi-Wan might have taught Anakin when he was
Well, I think the idea with Anakin was because, and this is what really sucks about 7, 8, and 9. With bringing back the Palpatine, you basically just say, hey, that great sacrifice that you did, Yeah. I mean, I used to watch Return of the Jedi, and just the moment of Darth Vader turning and looking at looking at his son, looking at the Emperor, and then finally the moment where he decides, he's going to, and then the very poignant moment where he goes, "Tell your sister you were right about me," You were right. It's like, and then the sad Imperial March music plays in the background. It's just like that moment is amazing, and they took it away from us.
Basically, this new prequel trilogy. I mean, we talked about this last week or the week before. As far as I'm concerned, they didn't consult Lucas, so it ain't Star Wars. It's no more Star Wars than the Thrawn trilogy. And I don't know, maybe the Thrawn trilogy is great. I heard nothing but great things about it.
Oh, the Thrawn trilogy would have been so much better. Episode 7, 8, and 9.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
In a heartbeat.
The entire obliterated EU is better than the best moments of 7, 8, and 9.
So here's an interesting factoid. I mean, so I many years ago, before, at this point, I think my wife was in grade school and I was in my 20s. I didn't know her at this point. But I would drive from Fargo to Minneapolis, almost every weekend or every other weekend, because I had a girlfriend down there. And on the way out of town, there was a video store that also had books on tape that you could rent for 99 cents a day instead of paying whatever was $40, for the thing. So I would go in there and I would get books on tape for the drive to it's about a 3.5 hour drive from Fargo to the Twin Cities. And I go there, I see it for the weekend, and I drive back. And that was how I kept myself sane. And I got all of the Admiral Thrawn stuff. And I remember sitting there and listening to books on tape the whole way through. And those things, that the storyline for that extended universe is, amazing. It's great. It's superb. And if they had turned that into a movie, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Did they do right by Thrawn when they brought him into the cartoons?
Yeah, they did right by him. He was he was very he was the whole character of Thrawn in the books. He had a lot of respect for power or subtlety or stealth or guile. He was always looking for the highest evolution of things, and that was his big thing. And when he finally, spoiler alert for books that came out in the 90s, when he finally meets his mate, the last thought he has is he looks up at this race of perfect assassins that have snuck into his domicile, and like as he's watching his like blood flow out of him, and he looks up and he goes, "What a perfect evolution of an assassin." It's like that's his last thought is that he's so proud that that's what he was killed by. It was I mean he was evil, but like evil with a purpose, I guess would be a good way to put it. I don't know. Hey, since people have mentioned all these like these Kickstarters that are asking for like a bunch of ones that are looking interesting, that they're asking for a chunk of cash. We mentioned Shiver Me Timbers, which is a game but Oath looks really cool. I really love to play it to see just how.
Play what?
Oath.
Oh, yeah.
I'd really like to play it to see just how much it affects like the future games and stuff like that. I'm just kind of like that I'm very much in the mood with that one. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, if I could get a hold of Patrick Leader and I had a day that I could just do nothing but just drive down to the cities and then go play it, I would do it. But I don't have the time to do that. So, which is unfortunate. I'd love to play the game though, and just see it firsthand and see how cool it is. It's definitely a cool idea. How like it's legacy, but not really legacy. It's just like you kind of like evolve the game as you play. I don't know. Foundations of Rome looks like it's just it looks kind of neat. The toy factor on it is over the top.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I know the gameplay may not look really insane, but the production quality and the overall feel I get from looking at it looks awesome. I need to see gameplay videos. I know, Keith, you had mentioned that you thought it maybe looked too simplistic.
Which one?
Foundations of Rome.
Foundations of Rome looks like a cool game. It's got a cool designer. It looks overproduced and costs 3 times what it needs to cost. Because it is, at its core, pretty simple gameplay. I'm sure there's depth to it and plenty of it, but
I'm an Emerson fan, though, so I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Spice Road or less.
I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. Plus, they still haven't unlocked all the stretch goals yet, which could add some stuff to the game that could maybe give it more depth. But I definitely backing that. The game looks amazing. It's one of those games where I feel like if I don't get it, it's Kickstarter exclusive, the entire project. So I don't want to miss it and pay twice as much for it later. So if I'm wrong on it, I'm sure I'll be able to resell it.
So I was working on something while you're talking Star Wars that I wanted to end on Star Wars with. I had to count it, 136 Star Wars novels is what I've read. And 136 of them were better than episode 7, 8, and 9. That's all that is.
Does that include or not include Splinter of Mind's Eye?
It does not include it because I've never actually read Splinter of Mind's Eye.
Yeah.
That was the first Star Wars novel.
I remember when it came out, but I never read it.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah, it was a really neat book. I remember picking it up as a kid. I remember reading it, and I remember, it was just a really, really neat little world that Alan Dean Foster created in the Star Wars universe. I can't bring myself to want to back Return of the Dark Tower.
I can't.
I'm not, but I am. I've got a retailer friend of mine who said he's retail pledging it, so I've got a year to decide. It's one of those things where I wanted to make sure I kind of had the option to get it, but I wasn't willing to go off what I've seen so far. So I've got a retail pledge copy that's kind of being reserved for me, and if I have until it comes out to decide if I want it or not. I'm on the fence. It's got cool toy factor, but I don't know that it's gonna do what I want it to do. Like,
here's what Return to Dark Tower is for me. Return to Dark Tower is the game that I'll go grab it at BGG Con and play it and never touch it again.
Yep.
Then
I feel like that's the case.
It won't have cost me anything.
I feel like that's the case. And why spend $200 for something you're gonna play once a year?
See, I have a copy of the original, right? Mm-hmm. And I broke it out and played it with my kids like once, and they were like, "Oh, that was kind of neat." And then they just kind of moved on with themselves. And
it's a game that in modern times does not hold up, right?
Probably not. I know they've changed some things and added some things, but I don't know if you could do enough to make it.
They've changed a ton with it, but
yeah,
the original game was really mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool because it was so different and it did things that nothing else did at the time. I mean, I used to carry my tower around and just play with it. But
I mean, I remember playing the game without using the board at all, just
right,
hitting the buttons. You know,
that's what I did.
Yeah, and just like going through it. Yeah, it was. I don't know. I'm like, it's not that the game itself. I think the game itself really isn't all that good. I mean, like the old school game, it's just it's like, oh, did you get the key yet? Did you get there? You know, and then it's just like it's just kind of a weird modified race. Now, I mean, obviously people are like really gung ho to get it. I mean, I just don't want to drop $225.
No, I don't either.
And the thing is that I was really disappointed in Fireball Island.
Me too. I'm with you on that. That's one of the reasons why I'm hesitant on this one.
Well, I mean, it was a mediocre game back then too.
It was, but I mean, but this had component quality issues and stuff like that. I mean, it was just like
it did not feel like a 2019 game with the component quality, and I thought it was going to be a big step up from what we got in the original. It wasn't that much better. It was very thin plastic. The box was garbage. It barely holds together. It's
for the price, it was pretty chintzy.
I was happy to turn mine around for what I paid for it.
I'm actually selling mine right now as we speak. It's on eBay. Watching this made me realize, watching the Dark Tower launch made me realize that I'll never play Fireball Island again. So I'm selling it now while I can.
So I mean, Oath is a game that I might break my pledge that I wasn't going to back any games this year. But it doesn't look. I'm trying to see if Oath has any kind of like, if you don't back it, is there something you're going to get? I'm trying to see if there's anything like you're going to miss out on kind of thing. And I don't think there is. I mean, if I waited and just picked it up in the store, it looks like it's going to be the exact same game. I don't see any exclusives or.
Yeah.
Oh, then I know you get the upgrade metal coins and resin, and you get a journal. So you get $40 worth of free stuff if you back it on the. But you can always pick that stuff up at conventions later and stuff too.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I just meh. I mean, I have it on the excuse me. I have it on my remind me, and I'll make my Foundations of Rome. I'm not excited about that at all. I'm just.
I am. That and Shiver Me Timbers were the only two that I'm backing currently. Those two.
I mean, it's got a bunch of stuff, but I'm just kind of like, that's all it is to me. It's just a bunch of stuff, you know. I would like to mention, I mean, just because I spent most of today making the Kickstarter page. Tortuga 21.99 launches next Tuesday for the game that Richard Ham said it had too much nastiness between the players that he didn't want to review it. So
yeah.
That's our certificate of approval. I would say.
Are you gonna put that as a quote?
No, I actually suggested that.
You should.
I suggested it, and they were like, "No, we're not going to do that. We don't need people saying no." If Richard,
they don't have their finger on the pulse.
Yeah, so
that's funny.
The thing is that you can play that game without being mean to each other and still win. So, but I can understand why you shied away completely and totally.
Yeah.
So. All right, we've been circling like sharks around Endgame for I don't know how long. So I'm gonna offer up the fact that like I watched it, like I there's no way I was gonna be able to go back and watch all of the preceding other movies, right, that led up
You're gonna watch 10 decades worth of movies or 10 years worth of movies in a week.
Oh, Keith, you taking off?
I'm going to take off because this will be a long one, and I'm not going to stay up that late. So, have a good
one. All right.
Friends.
Good night, brother. Hey, what's the next? Are you going to Origins, by the way?
I reserved a room. I haven't bought my badge yet, but I did get a room reserved so that I can go this year.
All right. Well, I hope you are, because I mean that's the first time I think I'm going to be able to see you this year. So.
Well, yeah, that or Gen Con, one or the other.
Keith, you need me to email you my address for that copy of Aquatica?
Nope, we're good.
Damn it.
See ya.
All right.
Some bitch.
Okay, so Endgame. I have my as I kind of watched it in the background, I have like a handful, I would say a little more than a handful of problems that I have with Endgame. Now, I'm going to start off by saying that I think Endgame was a fine movie. It ended a storyline.
It ended. It did it all.
No, it ended a storyline that we had been hinted at and hinted at and hinted at, and like we were looking for, and then finally we got to see it, right? We had the big snap that the people who had read the comics beforehand knew was coming. And then like so it still managed to be poignant and rough to watch, right? I mean, it was just kind of like, oh geez, that's like, it was. And then so then I was like, I know how they solved it in the comics, and I knew that there was no way they were going to go that route with the solving it, because it was way too the way they solved in the comics had a lot more to do with all the Celestials and Eternity and all of the mega powers of the Marvel universe. That had a lot more to do with them battling Thanos. And since you've seen the Celestials just basically off, like, they kind of mentioned them in a few places, but they didn't really do. Yeah, in Guardians of the Galaxy, they never really focused on them in any way, shape, or form. So I knew they'd have to figure out something. So the crux of this is it's a time travel movie, right? I mean, you're God, I don't want to sub reference, but my wife and I are watching The Witcher on Netflix. I would just put this in your sticky. Maybe we can circle. I don't know if you guys are watching it or not.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to watch it in the next week or so.
I'm not. So
okay. Well, I'm not going to give any spoilers. I'm not going to give any spoilers at all. But I've read the novels. I haven't read all of them because all the novels haven't been translated to English yet. But I've read the novels, and they're really good. If you like fantasy novels, they're very, very, very good to read. But so since I read them, I kind of know the characters, and I know who they're referencing, and I know what they're doing and what have you. But I am so proud of the way that they're doing it, in a way that they're making you pay attention to the movie or the shows, and they're making you connect the dots, because they're telling the story in disjointed time.
Didn't you say that was a problem?
Well, it's a problem for people, but they don't ever do exposition blatantly to like just let you know, oh, by the way, this is 20 years before that last scene you were just in. And it's kind of like they do it Pulp Fiction-esque, when it's just kind of like, you have like the whole second act of Pulp Fiction, where you see Vincent Vega get shot and killed by Bruce Willis, and then you go to the third act, and all of a sudden there's John Travolta and he's alive, and you realize that, oh, this happens before the second act. And but it makes you figure that out, right? You're like, oh, okay, because like, and then you hear, and Jules quits, and that's why he has to go. That's why John Travolta dies, because he has to go and wait for him at that guy's apartment all by himself. And so when he goes in the bathroom by himself, he doesn't have backup, and that's why. Anyway, so The Witcher does this in a way that, like, oh, look, here's a scene, and you have seen that person die. And you're like, and it wasn't like, oh, you've seen that person die at the beginning of this episode. No, you saw that person die in episode 1, and this is episode 4. And then now you've got to like, oh, and then you start putting the puzzle pieces together. But they don't ever, like, it isn't like you're watching the very beginning of a TV show and like for no reason whatsoever, the guy happens to mention, yeah, that's that old steel mill they're building. Nobody knows what the heck is out there. Oh, I wonder if we're going to end up at the steel mill later, because, that. So, and I like that about it. Now, I don't know if they'll continue doing that, and if they'll
Kyle in the chat says the time jumping won't be around for the next season. The showrunner explained they had to do the time jumping in order to get each character in each episode.
No, well, maybe. I don't like reading about how and why they make the stuff, because I think that kind of ruins it for me. That's fine. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. Yeah,
I blame you, Kyle.
No. That's cool. But yeah, so it's just and you know what? Anybody who's saying what I said was a spoiler, I didn't mention any names. There's like literally dozens of characters.
Wait, Lance. Are you saying a character will die?
Yeah, a character dies. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, bite me. But anyway, all right. So
how does that pertain to Endgame?
So it's a time story.
It's a time story. So whenever you have a time travel story, like, people play fast and loose with the rules. And so lots of things get stated as like, this is rule number whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then they just change it. For example, and once again, this is giant spoiler territory. If you're like the last geek in the world that hasn't seen Avengers Endgame,
don't watch this.
Don't watch this. So
3, 2, 1.
Okay, we get to the end, and there's a lot more than this. But I mean, this is one that still bothered me. As soon as I left the movie theater, I went, "Wait a minute." Old Captain America, really cool. I remember seeing that. I was like, "That's cool." And then when it was so obvious that like, oh, they're going to have Bucky become the new Captain America, they said, "No, Falcon's the new Captain America." I said, that is awesome. That is taking this in a direction that like, and Falcon has in the comics taken the role of Captain America a few times, but Bucky definitely did it. And then there was US Agent and all these other people too. But I was like, that was super cool. They did not go with Bucky. They gave it to Falcon, and they also did it in a way that like, now, I mean, it's he's African American, so it's like it's something, but it wasn't blatant. It wasn't like it was just one of those things where it's like it just fit well, right? I'm leaving the movie theater. I was like, wait, whoa! Didn't they say earlier that like if you go back in time and you change something, it doesn't change the reality that you're in? It just creates a new reality.
Yes.
So Captain America going back in time and staying there.
Yes.
He can't be in that reality where they are.
He lived and grew to the ripe old age of 100 and whatever in an alternate reality.
Yes.
In a reality where he came back and said, yeah, you know what? Hydra's part of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let's get rid of them. And oh, yeah, Bucky is actually being held by Soviets. Let's go save him. I wouldn't be surprised if he ultimately went on to become president, quite frankly. But he came back and continued to provide inspiration for America and the world and finished out the war.
But he can't be on that park bench.
Yes, he can.
Reality. No.
Because he went back to 1940, whatever, lived out a life in an alternate reality. And during that entire time, that 100 years that he lived out the rest of his life, in his closet, he had a time travel dimension jumping suit that he could put on anytime he wanted and come back to where he started.
So are you trying to tell me that not only did he go there, but he also brought the shield with him and then like handed it off?
The shield was destroyed in our timeline. He brought it back from a different timeline.
Yes, exactly. That is literally
a non-broken shield. He lived out his life in an alternate timeline and then came back seconds after he originally left in our timeline.
Right. Yeah. He probably lived out his life until Peggy died.
Yep. And exactly.
Like, okay. My North Star in this universe is gone. It's finally time for me to go home.
Mm-hmm. And he came back at the right time so he could pass on the mantle.
Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. And you don't have to take our word for it. The Russo brothers have confirmed that in interviews.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I mean, that sounds like patching up the walls.
It is totally not patching it. It is 100% consistent with the rules as they.
What I'm saying is that to me is like, oh, we just made this giant plot hole. Hey, how can we fix this? And they called the 8th grade nerd who said, actually, you can have him go into the alternate. Oh yeah, that's exactly what we meant.
They wrote that into the dialogue.
No, they didn't. They didn't write that into Captain America's dialogue.
They stopped following those rules.
No. Captain America did not show up at the end and say, "Oh, by the way, I was living in an alternate dimension. I used the suit. I came here to give you this. Now I'm going to go back to the other alternate."
Is that a scene you want to see? Because that would be a shitty scene. And as you said, what they gave us was an awesome scene. But they didn't have to fill in the minutia because they'd already done the legwork to establish it. And I mean, yeah. But anyway, go on. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Please continue.
No, my point is that they're asking us to do the plot writing for them at that point.
See, I think you and I have a fundamental disagreement about what the nature of a plot hole is. I do not believe movies are bound and required to fill in every single blank and ensure that, we see the character get into the car, drive the car, gas the car.
At some point, your imagination has to take over.
No. You are
and knock on the door. We do not need to see that.
Okay, fine. Why not use one of the powers of the many stones that you have to save save Iron Man at the end, so he doesn't have to die?
Okay, so you're saying after Cap had died, why
not?
After
Iron Man, Tony Stark dies,
or
he's dying. Why doesn't somebody use one of the ultimate powers of one of the gems to save his life, so he doesn't have to die, or just bring him back to life?
How are you how would they bring him back to life?
Well, I mean,
the stones don't bring people back to life. The stones,
but you could go back in time just a little bit more, or like you could use.
You could do that for everything, and the reason they don't do that is because every time they do that, they create alternate timelines. And I will give you this: I do think it was a mistake for them not to. At one point, Hulk says something like, "You'll make a lot of nasty alternate dimensions," or "You'll hairy alternate." He says something like that. I do think they probably could have underscored that a little bit more, that to get themselves out of you can bring anybody back. What the wise thing to do would have been something along the lines of, ultimately, Star Trek Next Gen had an episode devoted to the fact of, for a long time, warp just got faster and faster and faster. And why isn't it to the point where anybody can go anywhere? Because we are literally ripping the fabric of space-time apart by warping, and we have to self-impose. In my own headcanon, I have to accept the fact that there's two problems. One is, yes, they could go back and get somebody and bring them into their world, but now that other dimension is denied, whatever it is. And that's like for longer, more deep dives. The more, well, just grab somebody seconds before they died. If they did that, if they went back seconds before Tony died and snagged him and said, "Oh no, don't snap. Boom, we're going to bring you back." What they have done is, very selfishly, they have brought, look, we've still got Tony, and we have our cake and eat it too. We have Tony, he didn't die, and Thanos is gone, everything's cool. That other dimension is royally fucked. We have just doomed an entire alternate dimension where Thanos wasn't defeated to continue to live under his rule. So, and that's the fundamental problem. Yes, you could go back and and save Natasha before she dies, or save anybody before they die. And what you're doing is you are for being totally selfish for, it's our universe and nobody else's. All other universes suck. Who cares? Let them suffer so that we can have our friend back. That's not a very heroic act, and that's why they don't do it. Because the nature of time travel is every time you do something in the past, you create an alternate universe. And going into the past, I mean, that was literally, Tilda Swinton's entire purpose was to explain this. Mm-hmm. Yes, I will give you my stone, but then the problem is my universe, because she even says it, my new reality that I live in, yeah, you're happy, but my reality is now royally fucked. At which point Hulk said, "Don't worry, we'll bring it back. You'll be fine." That's the fundamental problem. Yeah, you could go back, get Tony, spend a couple days with him, but you still got to take him back, or else that other reality is fucked. That is the way they crafted this time travel story to avoid those kinds of tropes. Now, there is one really bad, unassailable plot hole. I'm going to wait for you to come to it, because I'm sure you will.
Well, I might or might not. But okay. I really enjoyed the Captain Marvel movie. I remember I went to the movie. I liked it. I remember my son like laughed laughed out loud, like when like I can't remember his name now. He at the very end, he starts to talk and she just blasts him. He goes flying, and Caleb thought that was just the most hilarious thing he'd ever seen. And so I just really enjoyed it. I realized that when you have a basically a Superman level
pretty
power
much
character,
they totally did that. Yes,
you can't have them in this situation because they'll just outshine anything else. But I mean, it was so dumb. I mean, it was like, okay, here's Captain Marvel. Oh, there's other worlds that I need to go help with. Well, just stay here because the major problem is here. Some of us can go to these other worlds or whatever. I mean, I realize it's just you've painted yourself into a corner, and you have to grab a straw that like. But it was a shitty explanation.
No, I agree with that. I give you that. Captain Marvel's up and down power level was a little off.
At the time they introduced, they wrote at the time that they wrote her out. It was a perfectly reasonable and internally consistent thing because Scott Lang hadn't come back yet. They had all basically resigned themselves to this is it. This is reality. 50% of all life in the universe is gone. And that has created, can you even imagine what untold amounts of suffering and chaos that has created in countless worlds? And Earth is full of people who can solve problems there. She's by herself. She doesn't have a Nova Corps or a Green Lantern Corps. She's got to help literally thousands of known planets try and resolve this. I mean, thousands of planets have no idea what happened. She just has to spend the next 20 years flying around letting everybody know what happened so they can get some sense of closure. Who else is going to do it? Of course, it makes sense. If they tried to do that scene after Scott Lang came and said, oh my God, there's a way we could fix all this, then it would not hold water. Because, of course, no, you don't take your best player off the field when we actually have a chance to undo all this, which is why those scenes come basically during the leftovers portion, the leftovers, because Endgame is basically 3 movies. It's Leftovers, then it's Time Heist, then it's, Braveheart, final, just throw everything at the wall. And so I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, you're right. It's obvious that they did it because they had to do it, but I do still think it was earned in the way they presented. Now, maybe you're right. They could have done a better job than just, hey, there's a lot of other planets out there, because you really do have to stop and think about, fuck me, all these planets who have no idea what's going on, or just, and they maybe could have dwelled on that, but it was a 3-hour movie and they got to move on. I guess that would support your point of, could they have not given us a second line? Maybe they could have. Mm-hmm. But I'm willing to do some of the lifting, and I don't hold it against the movie. It's interesting, this is it's ever since the Matrix trilogy, which I really enjoyed the whole thing, but I believe the reason for that is because I didn't watch just the Matrix trilogy. I watched Enter the Matrix. I watched Animatrix. There was a shit ton of supplemental material that the Wachowskis brought out. All of this stuff together.
Wait, the Matrix had a trilogy? I'm unfamiliar.
Yes.
There was just that one really awesome
the Matrix
movie.
had a quadrality because Enter the Matrix is effectively a full feature film, and it does do a lot to supplement and patch over some of the holes that you might have had with the trilogy as it is. And this is really interesting. This is something that I think the Wachowskis kind of invented. This notion of, hey, we're not just a movie series. We're a multimedia experience. And the next one that really leveraged it is Lost. And the reason I love Lost, and I feel Lost does answer every question proffered, is because I didn't just watch the series. I watched the ARGs.
I watched those too. There's still a few things they didn't answer, but yeah, if you watch that stuff, you do get.
Yeah, it gave you a lot more, and so I have a hard time judging it just based on what was on the screen, because hey, there's all the supplemental material if you want it. And
we're jumping around here a little bit, but Lost to me is one of the few TV shows, and there's only a handful, that in my mind actually ended well. And I think Lost ended very well. I think the final scene of Jack,
beautiful, so beautiful.
Yeah, basically going out into the field to die, and you know, and alone. It mirrors the beginning of him waking up on the island.
Oh, I bawled so much.
Yeah, and the fact that and the fact that it made me angry that Locke got totally screwed. If you really think about his character, like he got complete, and it made me, and he didn't get, like, he sort of at the end got a nod, but I mean, and a kind of a good ending. But I mean,
he was in the church, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in the church, and and then he has the conversation with I can't even think the actor now.
Michael Perry.
Yeah, Michael Perry, and he goes, "Do you want to come in?" And he goes, "I don't think I deserve it." And then he said, "Well, whenever you're ready." You know,
oh my God, you're giving me the feels.
Yeah. And so it just, I thought it was well done. But anyway, we're if we start going down that, we'll have to have a Lost Alaboom at some point, just to kind of go over some of the fine points at some point.
Well, before we do that, I want to watch the whole thing again.
Oh, I know. I've watched that in the background more often than anything.
Really, I've only ever seen every episode once, and and I know someday I'm really wanting to try and get as much of it out of my head so I can. I mean, that's one of those things that, man, if I could mind wipe myself so I could experience all for the first time, Lost totally.
Oh, the episode 3 where you realize that Locke was in a wheelchair the entire time.
Jeez, yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that is such and you don't see it. You don't see it until, like, he's sitting there and he's like, "You should have been honest about your condition." And he goes, "I know more about surviving on the outback than any of you, blah blah blah." And just like, and he's like, "You don't tell me what I can't do." Is he's like pushing his wheelchair out to go yell at him. And then you realize why he's so weirdly happy, because he can move his feet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no. Anyway,
yes.
Back to Endgame.
So I'll grant you that it's unfortunate that they had to do that with her, but I can't imagine how you could have done it much better, really.
Yeah, I know. It was a bad. Like I said, it was it's
not done for them too. They're going to have to address that. I mean, she is Superman, and Superman has no stakes. In her next standalone film, they've got to do something where she has to get some kind of, oh, you know what? Now that the Power Stone is gone and that's the source of your power, it's killing you, or something like that. And she has to be depowered to have to
bring her back into the
Matrix, Messiah, Neo, merge with something.
Yeah,
she has to do one or the other.
This might be something minor, but it just kind of bothered me, and it was like, and I didn't really notice it until somebody pointed it out to me. So this isn't truly mine. This is another person who had some issues. So Infinity War, you have the big final battle.
Yeah.
Thanos is there, who's got 5 of the stones. 4 or 5, and it's on Wakanda. He's got the Black Order people. And that the army of those basically alien, right straight out of
the latest faceless horde for the Avengers.
Horde that we can kill and we don't have to feel bad about.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're crazy and they're killing themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you had 10 Avengers, and Thor showed up super late. Captain America's there, but he doesn't even have his shield. And they're holding their own against this army, right? And in this battle. Then you go to Endgame, you have every single one of the Avengers, like 24. And then of those 24, you also have like their own individual armies, like the Wakandans and whatever. They have all those. Thor's there from the very beginning. He's got Mjolnir back. Cap's got his shield. Captain Marvel shows up late, but she's there. And it was like they couldn't just immediately beat Thanos. They even have a completed Infinity Gauntlet there, and it's just like they couldn't just. They were having a tougher battle against Thanos at that point.
But as you said, it's because it's against Thanos. In Infinity War, Thanos shows up for all of 45 seconds, and as soon as he shows up, they go from winning to instantly losing.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that,
he's there for the whole thing.
on top of that, in Endgame, I mean, the main heroes, Thor, Cap, and Iron Man, did just have like a building dropped on them, and they were pretty beaten up.
That's
and
true.
They were going up against Thanos, who was just sitting there resting, waiting for him. And Thor was not the Thor we're used to in Infinity
I remember when Cap they have that close up of him tightening up his shield. He's got a fucking broken arm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got a bone sticking out of his arm,
Mm-hmm.
and he just tightens it up and stands because that's who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I do think that the issue there is, I mean, you said it, it's Thanos.
Okay.
Because honestly, if Thanos was not there at Endgame, you never get a real sense that there's any real struggle. They're on top of it. You're right. It's literally the Avengers and every Avengers wannabe in the entire MCU, and they've totally got it. The only problem they face in that entire final third of the movie is dealing with Thanos, because he basically takes down every single person who comes up at him. And at one point, when Thanos says, "Fuck it, I'm going to kill everybody here. I will kill my own people as much as I will kill you," because who knew? It turns out Scarlet Witch is more powerful than Thanos, which I have to admit, that was a genuine surprise to me. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, she was the only one that really put a whooping to him, other than Captain Marvel for a little bit, because remember, Hulk had already snapped the gauntlet and was pretty wounded at that battle. Captain America was on his last breath. Thor was not the Thor we're used to, and Iron Man had also taken quite a beating from a lot of the initial battle up front. So they outmatched him, but they were not at full strength like they came up.
And I'll grant you, they came up with a convenient excuse to keep Doctor Strange occupied.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah,
which was a little lame. I mean, let's keep the water off of us and not worry about Thanos.
Yeah, it would be kind of nice if he could have, squared off against Maw or something like that.
Yeah.
I really want. Is there going to be a Doctor Strange 2?
Yes.
The subtitle is in the Multiverse of Madness.
Because I really enjoyed the first Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was. I mean, they basically there was the perfect person to play it, and they got him to play it, and it was. Yeah, he's fantastic in that role.
Yeah.
I thought that I thought that they really destroyed. So Black Widow, and obviously she's got her own movie coming up. Looks pretty cool. I'm interested to see what they do with Red Guardian because
a new trailer came out yesterday.
No, I didn't. I'll have to go check it out.
I have not watched it.
Came out in the national title game.
Yeah.
All right, so they've hinted that she was like in love with Banner / Hulk. They've hinted that like maybe she's like in love with not Hawkeye or Ronin or whatever.
No, they've never done that.
Yeah,
There's never been any romantic subplot. They have always been comrades in arms. They have always.
I don't know. I
agree with that.
I think they they kind of I don't know. They just seems
if anything, I feel like she may have been secretly in love with Cap, but realized it would never happen. She seemed more flirty with Cap than she ever did with Hawkeye. With Hawkeye, it was a mutual love and respect, not a romantic thing.
Which it was paid out in Endgame because of her final words to him. He's saying, "You let me go. You know what I've become." And she says to him, "Look, I don't judge anybody on their worst day, and I've had a few." Or whatever one of her last lines were, is a culmination of their relationship, which of course harkens back to the comics, which had to do with that she was a spy and Hawkeye falls under her spell, because she was a Russian spy, and one of them converts to good and brings the other one over because they were both originally Iron Man villains or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know the particulars because I'm not that much of a historian, but I've always got that. Okay, yeah, they're hinting at this complex relationship they've had because she was pure on evil and he brought her out of the cold. He was the only one who believed in her and brought her into S.H.I.E.L.D. And that was their relationship was established firmly in the first Avengers film. Mm-hmm. Every time they talk about Budapest, and all of that. Was it Budapest? Wherever it is.
Yeah. But they did throw away the whole tease about her and Banner having a thing.
Well, it has 5 years passed and she was dead inside.
So
there is actually they didn't throw it away though. There's a couple of cool lines. At one point, Scott Lang when he's first doing this, oh my gosh, quantum physics, maybe tunneling and this and that and the other. And he says something to her and Cap. Do you know anything about quantum physics? And she just has a throwaway line about only enough to make small talk, which is a weighted line that she was into Banner so much so that she actually took it upon herself to learn some basics of quantum physics so that she could feel like maybe there would be something that they could actually share together. I thought that was just like a tiny little throwaway line.
You're catching nuance in places where I'm not catching it. So I mean, which is fine. Doesn't mean it isn't there. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just
they strayed away from their love relationship, and I feel like a lot of that had to do with her inner turmoil of what happened over the last half a decade of life changing and Banner being off the grid and all that stuff.
Well, okay, and then obviously the whole thing where one of them has to die, right, to be able to get the gem. Yes. But here's the deal: is like, and maybe I'm missing something. And once again, like I bow to people that know grasp it better than I do in this scene. But so the other people, they've like looked into it or whatever. It's like they spent 5 years like figuring out how to get these stones, right? Why was it such a surprise to them that they knew somebody had to die to get it? Like Nebula knew it.
No, but Nebula did not.
They just knew they went together and only one came back. They didn't know.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I'm going to write. Sorry, they're not stupid. They know that an ultimate price has to be paid.
Why?
Right?
How would they know that?
Because you can draw the dots. They're not stupid. They're not stupid.
If you're saying that they should accept the fact that we're in a movie and probably movie type things will happen to us, even though
no. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it like, that's definitely how they.
This is literally all they know. They the Soul Stone is on a mysterious planet. Thanos went there with Gamora. He came out. She did not. That's all they know. It's much more likely.
Is it crazy? Is it crazy for them to think that it's quite possible one of us has to die?
Yourself to try to keep the Soul Stone from falling into his hands.
I know. I think you are writing the plot to the point that you want it to be.
Why? I mean, I've literally. Do you disagree with what I have presented? This is literally all the characters know. The characters know it's on a mysterious planet. 2 people went in, 1 came out.
And I'm saying over 5 years, I'm pretty sure. My personal belief is they had to have known that was the case. That an ultimate sacrifice has to be made. I'm just with everything. The 5 years. And everything
movies, you will see that we know it. There is nothing in the text that gives them any indication that there was anything other than 2 went in, 1 came out.
Well, I disagree. But ultimately,
there's a guardian. They don't know that there's a test.
Her death is treated so poorly. It's like not
what?
Even. There's no funeral. There's no
the afterwards.
Yeah, the afterwards. It's like you see Hulk throw a bench or whatever, and that's it. It's just like, okay, well, let's move on. Just like she's like one of the.
Well, they did say multiple times that in order to make her death not be meaningless, that they had to finish what they started.
Yeah.
And it's not like they had years to sulk on it. They had to keep going or else all was for naught. And they mentioned that in the movie.
Coming back to it. Bruce, who loved her because there was a spark between them, broke down about how he tried to bring her back. He tried, he couldn't.
And he couldn't. And at the end of the movie, Hawkeye talks with.
They effectively have a mini funeral for her and for Vision because Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch talk about, I wish they were here. And the line of, they are with us or something like that. So it's not like the movie forgot. It's not like the movie played it short shrift. There was another line after when they came back and, it was like, everybody's great. Oh, she didn't come back. I think one of the immediate lines after is she have a family. And somebody else said,
our family.
We're her family.
Cap says it.
Yeah. And, so you're right. I guess they could have stopped the movie and gone to a third one, so they could have had time. But the reality is, in terms of filmmaking, they were generating momentum. It would have hurt the movie to stop and do much more than. I mean, they basically gave her 5 minutes. And quite frankly, they spent as much time talking about her as they did about Tony. It's just that Tony had more swelling music because there was literally nothing else to worry about except for mourning Tony. Whereas they mourned him. You're right. Banner had a breakdown. I'll go get the script. I'm gonna go get the script.
No, you don't have to go get the script
because I've only seen the movie 4 times. But
okay, fine. But I mean, and a lot of this is just my personal opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, your personal opinion is it didn't work for you. And my opinion is it worked great for me. It's all subjective.
I loved how they portrayed Thanos in Infinity War as an almost sympathetic character. Yes, he wanted to kill half the universe, but he believes he's going to save the universe by doing it. Yes. And so they present him as this very nuanced, very interesting villain, like extremely interesting, and that makes you actually pause and think, that's a horrible thing, but he has the strength to do the horrible thing so that the universe can continue.
Everything. I lost everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So they create this, and I realized why they had to do it, but I wish they had done some story writing where the nuanced, sympathetic Thanos could have existed instead of getting his head chopped off, and then we just get this learning about the world Thanos that's just basically a one-note nihilist that wants to destroy everything. I wish they had written with the sympathetic Thanos, have the sympathetic Thanos be around fighting the have both Thanoses, have him trying to teach the overly mad tyrannical Thanos this isn't the way, you have to learn, and thinking that this weak, despicable sympathetic Thanos is this simpering fool. I can't believe that you're me kind of thing.
I agree. That's actually they could have done that. That's a cool thing they could have done if they wanted to go that way. But I do think what they did do is equally cool. Obviously, my love of Last Jedi. I love subverting expectations, and clearly everything about the first the first half hour of that movie. I'm sorry. The first 15 minutes of that movie sets you up for, this is going to be the movie. Captain Marvel's back. We're going to chase him all around the galaxy. Oh, we're going to get him in the thing, and he's going to escape, and we're going to have to do this and that and the other. And he's dead. What did you do? I mean, that's, literally, what did you do? More than anything else, that moment was the culmination. That was the end of the movie for Thor, because, Thor ended effectively from his own personal narrative with a cliffhanger at the end of Infinity War that, he was brash. He thought he was going to redeem himself because of all the loss and heartache that he felt responsible for, but he's going to fix it. He's the only one who can stop Thanos, and he comes in and he should have gone for the head, and everyone dies, and he carries that with him. And, that's what makes his journey so amazing he is a god, and he carries, a sorrow worthy of a god that, he personally carries that. And so it was perfect as a capper of a movie for him to say, okay, well, I'm just chopping his head off. I'll try to get some, and nothing. And the last thing you see before 5 years later is him just walking away, as he fades, goes out of focus. And, so while what you're suggesting is a cool idea, I thought it was really important for for all the tools they used that, a sympathetic Thanos as it is, because you're right. I mean, he was in his hut. He was super sympathetic. It was like, man, if only they're kind of being mean to him. Oh, that's right. We forget he kills half of everything. So I liked how they did it. I think what you're talking about is cool too. That could have been neat, but I really appreciate what they got out of him.
Yeah. I wish that, because I don't know, like I said, that was I remember after Infinity War, having discussions, at length discussions about yes, he's evil, but it's weird. It's but his
part of your roots for him.
Yeah, it's not really rooting for him to kill half the universe, but his goal.
He has more screen time than any other character in Infinity War.
We tried to put him into a D&D alignment, right? And it was just it's like he's not really lawful evil because he's not following any set of rules or anything. He doesn't really have like a code of ethics. He's got a single-minded, one-track mind goal. I'm going to collect these baubles. I'm going to put them on this gauntlet, and I am going to solve the universe's problems. And like we debated it for a long time. He's not neutral evil because he's not selfish. He wants to save the world. He's not chaotic evil because he isn't just like mindless, and just destruction for the sake of destruction. Purpose. So at best we were like, he's like chaotic neutral because or true neutral because he has an idea of the thing that he wants, but the way he wants to get it is abhorrent and just it is and only somebody who's like insane would be willing to be that person that would kill half of all creation, because they're certain that's the only way they can make sure that life in the universe can continue. And it's just that, so he was such a wonderfully nuanced and interesting character and then they just made him into nothing.
I agree with what you're saying, but I look at it slightly differently, not surprisingly, because the character from Infinity War is 8 years older. He has 8 years of experiences, and you might think, oh, but he's an Eternal. What difference does 8 years make? It's 8 years of him on the final leg of his quest, collecting those stones one by one, and being thwarted every step of the way by the Avengers. And what we see of him, standing on his throne, smiling, saying, like, fine, I'll have to do it myself. That Thanos, who was all we had before Infinity War, that's a guy who has not come to respect his opponents, who does not look at Tony Stark as an equal. Infinity War did. He said, I respect you, Stark. You're like me. You're whatever. You have vision and all that. What we got, when was it? Thanos from 1994 jumps forward in time. We are basically dealing with somebody who has an idea, and it just falls into his lap, and he didn't have to work to get it. He didn't have to go through anything. And so he is one note because he was one note at that time because he himself has gone on a journey. I mean, he had to, Thanos killed the thing he loves most. 1994 Thanos didn't. And 1994 Thanos is much more comfortable saying, hey, you know what? Fuck you people. I'm just going to blow it all up and start all over, because he has not grown as a character. He has not borne that weight. And I mean, to me, it's interesting, the dichotomy. So that's why I actually like it. But although, again, like I said, forcing Thanos to face himself, and effectively, that's kind of what they do with Nebula. Nebula could definitely use some more time, but that is effectively, modern, reformed, balanced, on the mend, healthy Nebula coming face to face with who she used to be, and who she used to be rejecting who she could become. And that's what you're asking for. They could have done that with Thanos too, and that would have been fantastic, but they had other stuff to do, and they did give you that with Nebula.
The line you're thinking of is, "You have my respect, Stark. When I'm done, half of humanity will still be alive. I hope they remember you."
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's a line that 1994 Thanos would never say, because he hasn't had to kill his daughter. He hasn't had to do what he's done, et cetera, et cetera. But all you're doing is make me love the movie more by remembering those quotes.
Yeah, I'm not convinced at all. This movie ranks extremely high in my list.
Yeah. Keep going though. You haven't gotten to the one.
What about this?
Yeah, it hasn't hit the one yet.
Well, there's the ridiculous one about how does Clint get a phone call from his wife? I mean, like, really? She's been gone forever, yet somehow he kept paying the cell phone bill with her name on it.
Do you see what he was doing? Yes, he has a Shield issued cell phone, and he spent the last 5 years traveling all over the world. He hasn't been back to his house. His wife's phone. They were out having a picnic. She had left her phone in the charger. It was a Shield phone.
Once again, it was
the auto pay phone. I don't really have a problem with that. She wakes back up. She's in a field. What the hell happened? Her husband, for her perspective, they were just having a picnic, and then suddenly she looks around. He's gone. He's disappeared. She has no idea what's happened. She doesn't know time has passed yet. She goes back inside, she picks up the phone, and she calls him. Now, if you ask, why is that phone still live 5 years from now? If I my cell phone, which cost me $15 a month for 3 gigs of data a month, if I disappeared for 5 years, I don't see why. I'm not going to come anywhere close to my credit card limit at $15 a month. That's the reality of modern cell phones.
Your credit card would be shut down if you had been turned to dust. So just so you know.
Would it?
Yeah, it would. Just because
that actually begs a really interesting question that they should have a whole series about, dealing with half of humanity disappears. What does that mean? All they do is just a quick throwaway line in Spider-Man: Homecoming. One
second, I got the website. Hold on.
He still hasn't hit the big thing I was thinking he was going to hit.
Well,
what's yours? Is it the fact that half of the population just magically reappears back and no one knows that they're coming?
No, that's not a problem, because
what about the people that were in mid-flight in an airplane when they got snapped? Did they reappear in the middle of the sky and fall to their death?
Literally, this is Hulk making a wish. It's all he's done. I am making a wish. I want everybody to come back in a way that they are not hurt. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
The Gauntlet does it all. I'll tell you. I mean, there is one. I've struggled with it for a long time, and I can't. I have a hard time justifying it. I shouldn't say it.
Because he doesn't have his headphones in, so I don't think he can hear it. We'll wait and see if it's what you think it is.
Yeah.
I'm curious what his one thing is.
But I'm curious why, if I disappeared for 5 years, but my phone was on auto pay, why would my credit card?
Because if you've been declared legally dead,
eliminated if they don't make a charge on it for 5 years.
If you are declared legally dead, your credit cards get turned.
So fair enough, but let's forget one thing.
Living off the grid.
They were living off the grid, and he's a SHIELD agent who probably is not on the books, and neither is his family.
Whatever, fine.
For him to keep his family safe.
Whatever, fine.
Be a more specialized circumstance.
No, but this is what you do. This is what you just say. Oh yeah, that
literally do you want me to get the Age of Ultron script where they literally have dialogue explaining how Nick Fury, the ultimate spy in the universe, has set it up so his family is off the grid, completely disappeared from the rest of the world because he's worried about his family getting killed.
And thank goodness that the people that maintain that and make sure that never goes off is part of the half of the universe that keeps it going.
What is it you think that has to be done? They have to set something up, and then as long as they stay low, I mean, that's the nature of.
And let's not forget too. Let's also think about the fact that if half of the universe and half of the world gets disintegrated overnight, it's going to take a lot more than 5 years for them to pick up the pieces of civilization and get things like let's make sure these cell phones are turned off. No one gives a shit. Half of the planet just disappeared. Yeah. That's the last thing in the world they're going to give a shit about is turning off your cell phone.
Yep. But by your own admission, that's a relatively minor thing.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not really that bothered by it. It's just, one of those little peccadillos that, hey, wait a minute, and that's what they need a what if episode for.
It's a what if.
What if the cell coverage had been canceled and they didn't get the call from her, so they didn't know,
Yeah, it's a minor thing, and it's a little bit of a stretch, but not really in my eyes. Not enough that I would care. It may not make sense, but it's plausible enough based off of the fact that he's also in an elite organization that there is no cell phone bill for him and his family. They're on unlimited lifetime cell phone coverage.
Super spies on hidden, back. I mean, we didn't even know if she was calling for a cell phone. She could have been calling from a landline. I mean, that was
because her picture showed up on the cell phone. So it was an
makes
iPhone.
a great comment here. Oh, wow, we haven't farmed food for this many people for the past 5 years. Let the famines commence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. That's the thing. I was so disappointed. I was so excited after seeing Infinity War. Oh, my God, the next season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be amazing.
It's
13 episodes devoted to what happens to this world.
They didn't even pay attention to it.
And they completely ignore all of it. And they decide, okay, we're no longer canon. Actually, that's not what happened. They basically, I'm sure they wanted to, and they were told, as I recall, there was something about how they couldn't be sure that ABC would hold launching their next season until after Endgame was in theater, and therefore they were not allowed to remotely address.
What a stupid idea! They missed a golden opportunity.
Let's come up with our own storyline then.
It would have been a hell of a lot more entertaining to focus on the 5 years.
That show would be dealing with all of these things. It could have been 5 seasons, one for each year of the world trying to rebuild itself.
Yep.
I want that show. Of course, I got that show. It's called The Leftovers, which is amazing. But I want leftovers in the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting. But then what we find interesting, is
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what they did do with the last season of Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. was so bad. I used to be the biggest.
It was horrible. We stopped watching it because of how bad it was.
Yeah, I watched like 2 episodes and I was like, oh my God, this is so horrible.
It's bad. It turned really quickly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Worse than it ever was at the beginning.
What? I'm sorry?
Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. had a terrible first half of its first season, or just at best. But then when they had their tie-in with Winter Soldier,
it
was like they were off to the races, and then they had 3 or 4 really good seasons where they did really interesting stuff, and but then they had to throw it all away because Kevin Feige didn't want anything to do with them, and Kevin Feige didn't want to support it because of the internal war between him and is it Jeff Loeb, something like that. The head of Marvel TV and the head of Marvel movies had their spat, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was the collateral damage, sadly.
I was going to, God, what was the thing I was going to mention?
He hasn't mentioned it yet, Rado, has he?
No, he hasn't.
Okay.
It's unassailable. It's unassailable. I mean, I have no defense for it when he gets to it.
Well, I probably won't get to it because I'm running out of things here. Because once again, I wasn't able to really watch it and digest it the way that I wanted to.
Life gets in the way.
Well, no, and it's like I said, it's not a bad movie. I mean, I'm going to say this, and I'm just and I know that I will be disagreed with a lot, and I know that I could probably be really, really picked apart for this. But the moment when they're like, "Oh, we're gonna like show you what all the women in the MCU can do," so we have and I don't like using the terminology, but we have this SJW moment or whatever, and I can't think of a good other pronoun. I don't like that adjective, so I'm just gonna say that. But they have this like, okay, so now we're supposed to be
moment.
Yeah,
okay, whatever. It's like, it was so blatantly obvious. I mean, the end of the movie where you're expecting them to hand it to, oh God, hold on, stupid dog.
All right, while he's gone, I'll explain the fundamental problem with Endgame is, oh dear, he's back.
Yeah, we'll wait. That's fine.
Well, anyway, so like the end of the movie where it's like, oh, you think it's gonna be Bucky, but no, they give it to Falcon. You're like, that's super cool, and it was understated, it was unexpected, but here you have this like moment where it's just like, and then wait a minute, couldn't Captain Marvel just do all this herself? I mean, why wouldn't she just say, Spider-Man, just give me that thing?
I completely agree with you. That scene is my worst favorite part of the movie. And it's not because I care that the women heroes were banding together and real powerful. It's that they proved multiple times throughout the entire cinematic universe how powerful these women characters were. And they made them to be strong, and that moment just felt force-fed, and it was the only point in Endgame that I cringe and if I could get rid of that scene.
I only saw it once in the theater, and that was one of the big hoop and holler, woohoo, everybody to their feet moments. Was when that happened.
Not for me.
And not for me. And I'll say this. I mentioned that after we went to see the movie in the theater, because we went as a family, all 4 of us, and we left. I said to my wife, and I said, I just, it's like, it was just so dumb. It was like, why have that moment? It's like 2 minutes of like, it's just stupid. And she was like, she said, men have gotten 1 million minutes in movies. Can't we have 2? And I just was like, all right.
No, my wife actually looked at me and said, I can't believe they did that. I said, I can't believe it either. I said, they just spent a few scenes prior to that showing how powerful Scarlet Witch is and how powerful Captain Marvel was, to have to redo that whole scene and have every single female superhero happen to be in the exact same spot at the exact same time to make that transition happen just felt so forced to me that it did the exact opposite of what they wanted it to do.
It was a celebration of girl power.
It was, but they didn't need it. They've been proving it for 10 movies.
Saying, wow, all my favorite heroes all together for the first time. That's great.
Well,
if a little girl gets that feeling, or if a full-grown woman gets that feeling, or if a dude gets a little choked up because, oh my God, this is beautiful, because I grew up throughout my entire life, women have been downtrodden and second-class citizens, and this is a celebration of their power.
My wife said it best.
Where the men failed, they can actually finish the job. I think all that's great. I have no problem with it.
Like I said, like my wife said to me, like she's like, it's like men got 1 million minutes. Can we have 2? And I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah. It was just like,
I something that good.
The message didn't bother me. It was the execution of it. But that's the only thing I have negative about the entire movie.
Yeah. And then she was just like, you can close your eyes next time you watch the movie. Yeah. She's just like, and I was like, okay, fair enough. And
about that. Because I joked about that moment that, the only problem I have with it is she doesn't need their help. Actually, strictly speaking, the most important thing that they as a group do is they do slow down Thanos, because, Pepper and, Rescue and, 3 or 4, everybody who had beam weapons, the very next thing they do is they keep him pinned down so that she can punch through the rest. And so she almost gets to the van. And the only thing that stops it is the what's it called? The A-Force, because that's the all women Avengers in the Marvel comic book universe. They were able to stop Thanos from destroying the van, but they did ensure that she was able to get to the van. So that was something.
What was Mantis doing? Was she just helping people fall asleep?
That was the one character that didn't make any sense at all, because she could do literally nothing in that entire scene except stand there.
If she can jump on somebody, she can put them to sleep. So she could take out the biggest, toughest, baddest thing if she can get and put her hand on their forehead. So that is of some value, but I will agree she'd have to work pretty hard at it.
Yeah. Though Mantis is an integral part of probably, like, it's still, I will go and I'll pull it up on YouTube. It is one of my favorite moments in any Marvel Universe movie is when she and Drax are staring at the fountains, and Drax has where he talks about, like, this reminds you of my wife and my daughter, and then she feels his emotions, and she just realizes just how sad he is, and just like and you have this, and I hope, and I know they're hinting at it, and they're hinting at the idea of Drax and Mantis being together. And I hope they never do it. I just it's too Hollywood. It's too like, here's this, like, I mean, he has all the good lines too with her. I mean, he has one of the best lines. Drax is one of the best lines. He says, it's like, am I hideous? Oh yes, you are ugly, but you're lucky that you're ugly. And she says, why? And he goes, because beautiful people never know if people are being truthful to them.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's just like, it's just. It's perfect.
Yeah, so many beautiful moments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Is that it for you, Lance?
Insane. So many beautiful moments.
I've got more, but I mean, see, all of these are like little quibbles where you are just using this magic eraser to just say, oh no, it's the unlimited data plan that Shield gives for $0 a month.
Are you ready for the one that you haven't come up with that I
sure, and you probably mentioned it, and I'll go, yeah.
No, he hasn't said it yet. He was going to. I'll take a guess, but I don't know if I'm right or not. Is it the kind of unplausible way that Scott comes back to the universe?
No, I think that's. I mean,
with the rat walking over there and happens to hit the right button combination to turn the van back on.
It happened to hit the right combination in one.
That seemed a little bit like that's how they did it. Like, it wasn't someone tinkering with it. It's this rat just runs across the keyboard and all of a sudden starts the van up after it sat for 5 years.
As I just said on the timeline, at least 8 million of the 15 million timelines that Doctor Strange checked out that they failed, the rat got eaten by a cat. So
that was what I thought you were going to refer to, because that seemed kind of silly to me.
My biggest issue, and I really struggle with it, is Okay, we figured out time travel. We have enough to make one jump. We got one shot at this. Hey, how about we just have one person take all 10 of our shots and use that to go back and just get some more Pym particles? Then we have a billion shots at it.
Yeah, they never thought to go back and just keep
Pym
replicating Pym particles
from them in the middle. You know, it occurred to them a little bit late, and I have a hard time because that's not much of a leap. Seeing as how that's what they ultimately end up doing, they just go to a place where there's more Pym particles and they get them. They could have led with that instead of ending with that, and then they would have had no ticking clock.
Yeah, but that doesn't make dramatic movie.
I know. Yes, of course. But I would love to be able to come up with some kind of internal logic for the film to justify that. And the best I can come up with is they recognize. No, I can't come up with one. Other than it literally didn't occur to them because they just had their eye on the prize too much. But they had two super geniuses in the room with Banner and.
You would have thought that Tony could have replicated the Pym particles anyway. Once he had one sample of it, he could have replicated as intelligent as he is. That also is a little bit of a.
That doesn't bother me. Because
is Tony Stark not as smart as Pym?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Because he's got sample. If they've got 10 Pym particles for them to make the one jump, why couldn't he have put that in his computer, replicated the formula, and made it?
Firmly establish how important it was to Hank Pym, how much Hank Pym hated Howard Stark, and how more than anything else he wanted to keep Pym particles out of the Stark hands. I mean, they established that in the first Ant-Man film pretty thoroughly, and so I was like, because actually they de-aged Howard Stark to have him come in and be the bad guy. So I'm fine with that. But really, I mean, Scott Lang knows where there's lots of Pym particles in the past. They don't even have to take a risk and go to a military base in 1970.
No, they could go to his.
Scott Lang is a master thief. He could have broken into any number of places that he knows where the Pym particles are, and then they have no problems. They could do this a dozen times. The only one I can come up with is the fact that they realize every time they try again, they create another timeline, and that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like they need a line of, we can't fuck with space-time too much, or the whole thing collapses. And, in the comics, they would do that. They would have. One of the, they'd have the Living Tribunal come and explain that, you can only fuck with time so many times. And then the Avengers say, okay, well, I guess we better do this right on the first try because we can't really afford to fuck around. But you couldn't put something like that in the cinematic movies because.
No. I wish they could. If they could take the Jack Kirby world with the people like the Living Tribunal.
Well, in theory, we're going to see a bit of that with the next Strange film because it's literally the subtitle is Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness, and they have said they want to make this a horror film in the Marvel universe.
Well, I mean, it's like you have so much to work with there. I mean, like the Tribunal, Eternity. All of the different Sentinels. And they did do a slight dive with Ego. I mean, Ego is one of the the Celestial Guardians. I mean, with Guardians of the Galaxy. One thing that really bothered me was that in the comics, Drax does get a measure of revenge. Or vengeance, I guess. It wouldn't be really revenge. A measure of vengeance for his family against, and he didn't really get it in this. And Drax has always been one of my favorite characters.
Thanos and him never really had that moment where he got the revenge on Thanos. Now he did get a chance in the first movie to go against him, but Thanos dispatched him real quick. That would have been nice to see him get a good shot in just to remind Thanos that he's, not forgotten what he did to him. That would have been a cool moment. They skipped over that completely.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So did you see that they are going to make a cartoon of Superman Red Sun?
Yes.
No, that is one of the greatest graphic novels ever written about Superman. Are you familiar with this, Pete?
For the animated film, looks really good, actually.
Are you familiar with this?
I am familiar with it. I have never read it, and I'm now very happy I haven't because I'll get to enjoy it as a film.
So, Superman Red Sun.
I know the basics. Yeah.
I'm telling Pete.
Oh, hello, Pete.
What if Superman didn't land in a Kansas wheat field? Instead, he landed in Mother Russia during like the beginning of the Cold War.
Yeah, you've talked about this before.
Oh yeah, and it's just a fantastic world that they created where and they created like a Russian version of Batman, a Russian version of Wonder Woman. Lex Luthor is like he's American, but he's a hero, because he's got to come up with a way to defeat the Russian Superman, and it's very good, good stuff. There's another one where Lex Luthor is the hero. I forget, is it Red Sun? It might be Red Sun. I don't know. I have to go back and read it again. But he has one of the, like, they talk about the epilogue of the graphic novel is they go through all of Lex Luthor's oh no, it isn't. It's oh man, I can't. It's like I forget what the graphic novel is called. Somebody, maybe Kabuki Kid will pull it out of her brain somewhere because we both read it. But like it deals a lot with the idea of like Batman has a Brainiac shrunk down that Krypton city, and it's kept in a jar, right? And these are Kryptonians, and it's a really weird aspect of the DC world. And he can't bring them out for whatever reason. So because they have their own lives within this jar, basically. So these are the last surviving Kryptonians that aren't Superman. So he keeps them, and like I forget what the rationale is. He either can't reverse the process or whatever, but he basically he lets them live their lives in this jar or whatever, and then he just protects this jar. So basically, it's like a boat and a ship kind of thing. There's a Kryptonian city in this jar, the Fortress of Solitude, and there's they in the graphic novel they promote Lex Luthor as being like stupidly intelligent, like ridiculously beyond intelligent, like more so than everything. Like it's almost a superpower how intelligent he is. And there's this moment where like Superman has he flipped a switch where he said, I need to take care of all the humans. I'm the only person that can take care of you. I'm going to be the one that whether you like it or not, I'm taking over the world because I can protect all of you and you can be fine. And like Lex Luthor knows that he's coming to get him or whatever, and he hands Lois Lane an envelope, and he says he's coming. And Superman won't kill people, but he lobotomizes them. And he says he's coming. I need you to hand him this envelope as soon as he comes in the door before he gets to me. And Superman shows up. And Lois is getting to him, and then basically she hands him the envelope, and he opens it up, and it's one sentence, and he says, why don't you just put the whole world in a jar? And like Superman, like it just changes, and like he realizes that in his quest to create this utopia on Earth and controlling everything and making sure everybody's happy, he's actually like doing more harm than good. And so then he leaves Earth and never comes back. It was Superman is such a very difficult character in my mind for people to write good stories about. I have a friend, like my favorite comic book character is Batman. It always has been. Batman and Spider-Man have been my two number ones. And I have a friend who, like, Superman has always been his number one. And I've always been like, how can you like Superman? He can like do anything, he has like, and he said, because, it's like he always talks about Superman's humanity and things like that. And in really, really good Superman stories, they forget all about his powers and his abilities, and they focus instead on his much more human aspects and his frailties as well. And because of the fact that he has immense power, but he's still, just a man, if you will. I don't know. It's one of those things where I always think that it's easy. It's probably easier to write a Batman story than it is to write a good Superman story. just because of the power levels you're dealing with. Did you ever read Superman comics?
No, I never liked Superman comics.
See,
Superman is a boring character for me only because none of the storylines really gravitated to me. I read Batman 10 times more than I ever read Superman, and I was more of a Marvel guy anyway. I didn't like the DC universe other than Batman. If I could take Batman and move him to the Marvel universe, I could see the DC universe just burn and I wouldn't care. As a kid, it was always Marvel, except for Detective Comics and Batman. And I never read a Superman series that I liked. I never read Aquaman or Flash or any of those characters. To me, just didn't resonate with me, so I just avoided them. It was all Marvel all the time, with the exception of Batman. Death of Superman may have been the only series that actually interested me other than Batman stuff, but there's tons of Batman stuff.
The only DC stuff I have ever really gotten into was the Paul Dini animated universe.
There are two fantastic Batman graphic novels that I suggest everybody to read because they are written and I think written by Jeff Loeb and the art is Bruce Timm. So it's Batman animated series type art and Jeff Loeb.
I like the animated series a lot.
And Jeff Loeb, who is ridiculously fantastic as far as comic book writers go. It's called The Long Halloween and Dark Victory, and Long Halloween is like the first part, and Dark Victory is the second part, and they are self-contained stories of Batman doing what Batman does best, and that's being a detective. I mean, he still has got the rogues gallery of villains that he deals with, but it deals so much more about him being the investigator and deducing like the ultimate villain and things. And it isn't about big fight scenes and stuff like that, but it's really, really well done. And a lot of my favorite Batman villains like Mr. Freeze and Scarecrow, they get big time chances to shine, and because those are like, I like them, and I could go on and on about the animated series. I mean, it's just Batman the animated series is
best. They have a collection of the entire thing on Blu-ray that I've been keeping an eye on to get it at a decent price for a while. It was real expensive, but it seems to be dropping now. I'm probably going to pick up here in the next month or so and rewatch because I really enjoyed the animated series.
I am so spoiled though. I've done that for certain things that I loved, like, oh, it's on Blu-ray, but I'm so spoiled. I'm like, do I have to get up and switch a disc? Can't I just next episode?
I kind of wish it was on streaming, but I'm not signing up for the DC streaming service because I wouldn't watch half of it other than the Batman stuff, and I just don't want to get a whole streaming service just for the Batman animated series.
But I mean, I remember I mean, now it's back on Amazon, but like a very cheesy TV show called Psych. But my wife and I both really enjoyed it, and we really enjoyed our daughter really enjoyed watching the episodes too. We'd laugh at them and stuff, and it was always on background noise. It was on Netflix, and we just watched the episodes, and all of a sudden it was just off of streaming. And so then, as like a gift to the whole family, one Christmas, I purchased it online and like the Blu-rays so we could rewatch it. And I remember we got through like 2 discs on the Blu-rays, and we were just like, this sucks, because like you want to jump around and go to your favorite episodes, and it's like, oh, is that disc 6 episode, season 3? You're trying
I would much rather have it on a Netflix, Disney Plus, something like that, where you could just click the episode thing and go to the episode you want to go to. Animated series is great. That's the one thing I kind of wish I had to watch. Other than that, though, there's not a lot. Like I said, DC's not big for me. I'm much more a Marvel fan. Batman the only exception.
Well, I mean, it's weird. I found that in my experience, and now it's changed, but I mean, when I first started getting into comics, almost everybody, when they first started getting into comics, were big Marvel people. And then, but as they kind of cultured their habits or whatever, you'd progress over to DC, and it would just be like, because like it was Marvel had like cool like superheroes and villains, whatever, but I mean like DC had way more involved and interesting stories to tell. At least that was my experience anyway.
Yeah, not mine, not in my area where I grew up. It was predominantly Marvel fans, with the exception of everyone. It's like everyone had one or two DC heroes they really liked, but it was predominantly Marvel. Where the area where I lived, it was the Marvel comics would always outsell the DC stuff. I don't know how comics are shaping up now. I know Marvel's kicking ass in the cinematic, and I know DC for a while was doing really well with their television series, but I don't know where the comics stack up anymore. If the movies have helped the comics, or if it's still, even or weighted to one side or the other. But I don't really have time to read comics anymore anyway. I get my entertainment from being able to Netflix or view or listen. I don't get the time. It's a space issue as much as it is a time issue. I don't have room for 20 long boxes of comics anymore. So I get a graphic novel for the stuff I really like here and there. And then I try to watch as much digital content as I can to be able to enjoy those stories.
Yeah, I miss the days of being able to have the time to read, even if it's just graphic novels. Just like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got my Killing Joke. I've got my Death in the Family. I've got my Batman Year One. Those are the three big Batman graphic novels that I have, and I'll never get rid of. I've got the Infinity Gauntlet series, Secret War graphic novels. I've got the key stuff that I really, really want. I mean, thankfully, the cinematic universe has kept me from really needing to because they're giving me enough Marvel entertainment that I don't feel the need to have to find it in graphic novel form. But I have the key stuff, and if they ever come back with some decent Batman movies again, that'll scratch that itch. Otherwise, I just watch the Nolan movies over again and be happy with that, or the animated series and be happy with that.
So we're done talking about Endgame, I assume.
Well,
I wasn't, but it seems like Lance is done with it.
Well, it was.
What was your final rating for Endgame? With all the stuff you've said, what does it rank on your 10 scale of movies? Curious, because you've said a lot of negative, but yet I still feel like you like the movie better than most.
I like the movie more than Rise of Skywalker. I liked it more than Last Jedi.
There's a stretch.
I liked it more than 7, 8, and 9 easily. I mean, it'd be like a 7.5. It's just, it was one of those things where it should have been 2 movies, right?
Rado, what's your rating? 9?
My rating is, if you force me to only ever for the rest of my life be allowed to watch one single movie, it would be Endgame.
It's close to where
I'm
I'm
not
at.
saying that makes it the best movie I've ever seen, but is the movie I would choose if I was only ever allowed to watch one more movie for the rest of my life.
I would give it a 9.5 for Endgame for me. It would not be that one movie because obviously Jaws is that movie for me. But as far as the pop culture movies are concerned, there is Endgame, there's Episode 5 from Star Wars, and then there's the rest. And Endgame is probably I could go back and forth, but currently Endgame is above Star Wars for me in all respects. Endgame would be higher than any of the Star Wars movies, 4 or 5.
Yeah, for me, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is my favorite serialized. I mean, I now like the Marvel Cinematic Universe more than Star Wars as a whole. Me too. More than Star Trek as a whole, which is saying a lot for me because I am the biggest Star Trek geek. I mean, it has defined my life. Everything I know, I learned from Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Yeah,
but at this point, MCU trumps.
And I would say the same
franchise.
If you were to take Lord of the Rings, Star Wars,
Lord of the Rings,
DC stuff, all the pop culture movie franchises, is not even close that Marvel is in top. And I think Star Wars in the 80s, obviously we didn't have the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Star Wars was it for me, and it probably was it all the way up until probably the last 3 or 4 years. It wasn't even the beginning of the Cinematic Universe that really took it over. But by the time you got to Infinity Gauntlet and Endgame, and with the recent Star Wars movies, being not where I wanted it to go, it easily flipped for me. And now I don't see it ever going back with the way Disney's taking Star Wars over. I could easily see Marvel being my favorite franchise forever. And it's not even close anymore.
How about you, Lance? You're only allowed to watch one movie, and what's your favorite number one franchise? Do it. It'll probably be Jaws.
No, because it
can't be franchise. I would have.
No.
If they were making Jaws,
Jaws didn't have any sequels. Jaws didn't have any sequels, so it was.
Yeah, exactly. What franchise? What am I talking about?
Yeah.
There were some bad films.
I mean, Jaws is one of my all-time favorites. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 movies that I can like, if I see it's on, I'll like stop and I'll watch it. Yeah, I mean, just like, you know, I mean, as far as like, I mean, if you just take, you know, if you just take the even-numbered Star Treks until you get like 2, 4, and 6, those are pretty good. You know, I mean, you could just stop at Wrath of Khan, though. I mean, it's just you get
that
to
is
watch.
my favorite Star Trek movie, and I'm not a Star Trek fan, but I loved Wrath of Khan. I watched the movies. I just didn't like. I'm not a big fan of the TV series and all that, but Star Trek Wrath of Khan is an amazing movie.
I'll have to find it, Richard. But there was somebody that they were talking. It was a breakdown of the last episode of Star Trek Enterprise, and how like it was just.
That just went up just this week. It's from Steve Shives.
Yeah, and then but they actually have
my watch list.
But yeah. He actually mentions a fairly well-known Star Trek writer who actually said that if he had the ability to write the final episode, he would have had Dr. Sam Beckett jump at the end after he gives the speech. He'd have him give a speech to the Federation, and then that would. And I was just like, that would be cool. I mean, but people don't take chances like that anymore. They don't monkey with stuff. But yeah, watch that. That's Steve Shives. He's
you turned me on to him, and I really enjoy his channel.
He does a very good job. He does an extreme.
I back him on Patreon. I like him so much.
Yeah, he does a very good job.
He gets $1 a month from me.
$1 a month.
Yep. Everybody, all the stations I like now, I'm spending like $30-$40 a month now because of I just start doing $1 for you, $1 for you. It adds up.
It does.
But it feels like the right thing to do.
No, I mean, if I could just say, I could go prequels, especially after you made me revisit the prequels and actually think about them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like 1 through 6. If I can just take Star Wars 1 through 6, I mean, I love the reclamation of Anakin. I mean, like seeing how.
I was going to ask you that when you were talking earlier about Anakin's final scene when the mask comes off and tell your sister and all that. I was going to ask you, for you as a lifelong Star Wars fan, is that made better by the existence of the prequels and all the extra weight?
Yes, you see just how dark he turned. Like just how, I mean, like he killed the younglings.
But I also agree with you that the sequels diminish the impact of what Anakin does.
Yes.
And I don't like that. And I also agree. If I could compartmentalize Star Wars, obviously it would be the original trilogy would be my first guess, but I would then go to the prequels over the sequels. If I could only take 6, it would go backwards versus forwards.
So I went to I did these 2 things. The first one was great. The second one was, what was I thinking? When the last when Return of the King came, our local movie theater had you could pay $20.
See all 3.
You watched. You watched like
12 hours.
It started at like 5. So and then you got a half-hour break, and then and then right at midnight when they were allowed to show Return of the King, you watched Return of the King.
Mm-hmm. So I did that too. Mm-hmm.
You were in the movie theater from 5 until 3 a.m. And that was one of the greatest like cinema things I ever did. It was just.
I love Lord of the Rings, and I love that trilogy.
Anything,
I didn't like the Hobbit trilogy that much, but I loved the Lord of the Ring trilogy.
Then I went and I did the same thing for the Hobbit.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah, not as much.
No, so my buddy Joel and I, we're like the only people I know who've read all of the Silmarillion. Just like one of the funniest things we always did when we dungeon mastered, we always keep a copy of Silmarillion next to us. And this is before computers and stuff like that. And it would be like, what's the name of the smith in this village? Hold on. Renderon. You just kept it in your mind to see if you needed a name of something. It was a great way to like find something. But no, so we did the Lord of the Rings one, and then we were like, let's do the Hobbit. And we knew what we were getting into for the Hobbit one. I remember snoozing through great parts of the second one, just like tilting the seat all the way back, just waiting before the last one starts, right? Okay, good deal. Which was weird, but I mean, so like I think like the Lord of the Rings thing, I mean, because of the fact that we just probably never thought that those movies would come out. Like, I mean, reading the Lord of the Rings books as a kid and then using it to foster all of my D&D imaginations that I could possibly think of. And then like seeing it and then being at like for every single episode being at the movie theater with like all of my D&D nerds and like especially like the first one when they're running around and you're waiting and it's like, okay, here it comes. You're waiting for the big fight scene. Just like you're like you can see the glow is coming up. You're just like, the Baelor. Here we go. This is it. And like I saw like every one of my friends who I played D&D with like for decades, and now decades more after the fact. We all sat up a little straighter. We all kind of leaned forward more. We all got super excited, because we were gonna finally see, this demon that we pictured in our heads 1,000 times. We're going to see it created. And
for someone who's read the books, were you disappointed with anything in the movies? Because I had a friend who had read the books and had mentioned a couple scenes in particular that really disappointed him in the movie that wasn't as portrayed as it was in the book.
They made
the fight with Gandalf and when he went to protect the riders from coming back from Osgiliath, and the ring wraiths were chasing him, and he rode out to protect them. Apparently, in the book there was supposed to be some real badass fight, and instead they just shine a light and kind of run around and run them in. And he said he was so disappointed at that point because in the book apparently it was some really badass fight that Gandalf did.
He does a little bit more. He's got Galadriel. He's got a sword, and but. I mean, the removal of Tom Bombadil was probably needed because he just totally wasn't going to fit that movie. But I was kind of annoyed that I didn't get to see Tom Bombadil. I mean, it was just kind of like, but even in the book, if you go back and if you haven't read it, I mean, the Tom Bombadil sections of the book, they just feel completely out of character for the rest of the book. It's just like, it's like a huge, like, and like all of a sudden, here's Tom Bombadil, and you're just kind of like, oh,
well, that's like that's Tom Bombadil and Glorfindel, right, or something.
Well, so Tom Bombadil is just like he's like it's like he's just like this joke of a character. I mean, like and like he actually like takes the one ring and he's like holding it. Oh, that's pretty, and just hands it back. It has no power on him or anything like that. He's just a completely disjointed, kind of whimsical character that like serves almost character. Yeah, fairy tale who serves almost no purpose whatsoever. It just like he kind of propels like the fantastic world a little bit. I mean that's kind of neat, I guess
the Scouring of the Shire.
That was annoying. That wasn't.
That's what Wormtongue was supposed to do that right after after.
Well, Scouring the Shire is both Wormtongue and who's his face? Sauron. Yes, I can't think of any names.
Saruman.
Yeah, they go there and they do the Scouring of the Shire, and that's why when they come there and like in the movie, like you had to get the extended cut to actually see Sauron killed. You know, in the movie it was just like, oh yeah, Sauron's dead. You know, just like, oh, you know, just like it happened. You know, but you had to get like the extended cut DVDs to actually like see that happen. I remember owning those DVDs before Blu-rays existed, so you actually had to say, take out disc 1 and put in disc 2 so you can see the rest of the movie. You know, no, I think Lord of the Rings. They did an absolutely like perfect job on those, and they held true to the source material very well. But you know, it's like, it's weird. You know, it's just like I have more in my heart for Star Wars than I do for Lord of the Rings.
So Lord of the Rings would be second or third?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings would be second. You know, it's so weird. It's like, do I get to cut things out? It's like Star Trek movies. Can I just not? Can I have 2, 3, 4, 5?
No, all apart.
So with that being said,
one franchise, and that's it.
If you can't cut anything out, is Star Wars still number 1, even with the sequels? And
well, I can just stop watching at 6, right? I mean, I don't have to sit down and watch 7, 8, 9.
And you can watch all the Clone Wars cartoons and Rebel cartoons.
Yeah, and Mandalorian. And Mandalorian as well.
And Mandalorian now too.
So if you only had one franchise to watch for the rest of your life, that would be it. It'd be Star Wars.
Especially with all the stuff. I'm really excited to see the Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan stuff.
I am too, but I think I'd still pick Marvel. I think Marvel would do it for me.
Marvel's got like some weird clunky stuff in there though. I mean it's and Marvel is like, I mean, I can still read the comics, right? I mean, and the comics, as great as the movies are, the comics allow the nuance of the characters and allow a wider width and breadth of characters as well. None of the X-Men movies have done the X-Men correctly, in my opinion. I mean, they've done. I mean, the
first one wasn't too bad, but the rest of them
the first one was bubblegum. It was a bubblegum movie. I mean, it was just like, hey, here we are. We're doing all these.
Forrest is in chat.
We're doing all these fantastic, cool things, and we're superheroes. I mean, that was.
How long has Forrest been there?
Just a couple minutes. Not long at all.
No.
Congratulations on your announcement for public office.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I'm very excited. You have to. I'm sorry, we're done talking about pop culture.
It's
a new politician. What's the deal? What the fuck?
Honestly, it was.
And you have to watch what you say now.
In theory, yeah. It was those Andrew Yang videos and seeing all the different policies and every policy.
Oh, yeah, because they've really made you dig deep. Yeah.
Yeah, I did 33 different policies so far, and each time I did, it's just like, oh my god, this is a problem that's in America right now. This is a problem that's in my city right now.
Yeah.
And their solutions are things that aren't necessarily like that difficult to wrap your brain around. And I just started to look into my local area and saw that 17% of my local area is in poverty, and 31% of the kids in my area are in poverty. And then when I started to look into what poverty actually meant, it made me feel even worse because, you know, poverty, you think of it as just like, oh, they're poor. No, there's a number.
Yeah, you thought you were in poverty.
$12,600. So nearly 1 in 5 people in my city live with that much money. And my city is like a great city. And I mean, Lance has been there. Pete's been there. We're building downtown. We got a whole bunch of big stuff going in downtown. We're spending lots of money. We just got a $20 million park opened, but we're leaving behind the citizens because we're focusing so much on these big projects and getting more businesses and boom, 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 and growing. And we're leaving people behind, which, I mean, yeah. And so and then I saw the person in my district is a Republican, and he's been there for 12 years now, and he had no one run against him last time. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to run this time. I'm going to talk to the people, and I'm going to give myself, years and years to prepare because it's not until 2023. But I'm starting, and I'm going to work on it every day a little bit. And I got the plan for the Bauer 20, which is going to be 20 particular policies that I really want to focus on. I'm not guaranteeing that I'll be able to get done, but every step of the way, I'm going to try and get those policies to the table at City Council. And I'm talking with my buddy Eric, who works at the assessor's office. My mother-in-law works for the courts. So I'm trying to figure out which things just aren't realistic to deal with because they're either governed by state or national laws, and just focus purely on things that I can actually have an impact on at the City Council level. So I'm excited about it. It's definitely it's a new step. It's a new direction. And I've gotten very positive support from the people that I've told so far. I just told my boss a couple days ago, and that made it feel very real.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because and then I started telling some of the parents, and I started talking to some of the parents about their problems. And, that's one thing that I'm really amazed by is that I wanted to focus on just 20 things, but every single person that I talk to who's, in poverty, maybe not in poverty, but close to poverty, which is now like 50% of the country, unfortunately, is one car accident, it seems like, from being in poverty. And every single one of them has a different thing they think could make the government better, make them help better, all from different perspectives. I talked to somebody for about 20 minutes about how they thought the leaf pickup should be free. And I was like, well, okay, that makes sense. We're actively paying to try and beautify our city. Like, that's where we're spending tons and tons of money for. So it makes sense that if the city wants to beautify the city, a way we could do that, relatively simple, is just clean up the leaves for people. That'd make people's lives easier. Yeah, I don't know. It's exciting.
Yeah. I mean, so you're not quitting your job.
No, City Council does pay like $22,000 a year, which last year I made 20 grand, like pretty much on the nose, minus like the YouTube stuff. So yeah, that would be. And I told my wife, like, if I somehow won, which longer than long shot at this point. 12 years sitting, it's a very red state. But if I somehow won, I mean, and I worked that job and did City Council for 4 years, it would lift us into the middle class firmly. Like, we would be able to pay off our house in 4 years. Like, we would spend that money as wisely as possible to help us retire 5 or 10 years early, I think. Yeah, but yeah, it's going to be a journey. I'm excited to take it, and no matter what happens, as long as I keep going on this path, at the end of it, I'm going to have a sign that I'll be able to put on my wall that is just crammed with things that says Bauer for City Council, and that's all I need. That's the end goal. And if anything else, it's just gravy on the mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Do you know anything about the guy who's been there for 12? I mean,
yes, he is a fiscally responsible conservative who loves to talk about how much he's done for the roads. And I had checked his website, and I saw it hadn't been updated in quite a while. Well, I was actually talking to somebody who ran for City Council, and he's like, yeah, a lot of the times when they get comfortable, especially when they know that there's not even going to put up a Democrat to run against them.
Yeah.
And then they were telling me, it was a whole interesting thing about how bad that is for Democrats, because that means that all that money that might have potentially been funneled into that race or distributed on the other races. And I was like, wow, I never thought about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna learn just so much over the next years.
Do you worry he'll make mincemeat of you with the whole, well, you have no experience, you're just a dumb kid who's high half the time? I mean, or I mean, do you just like lean into, yeah, this is who I am? A lot of your constituents are high half the time, and maybe they have a voice for a change.
Very heavily, and I'm going to talk about how I am an average person and I have these problems. We have to juggle our savings account from time to time. We have to forego this from time to time, and I think that's going to resonate with the people.
Because you get a sponsorship from Xbox and Taco Bell.
I'm not gonna turn down any sponsorship.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm excited to start meeting. Like, I plan on meeting the people that are currently in City Council now and going from there.
Are there any lefty liberals on the City Council, or is it all red?
No. It's more centrist, leaning a little bit left. But I think that, one of the big ones is obviously for me going to be decriminalizing marijuana, and I think it just makes so much sense.
How's your hand, bro?
Dude, getting better. Thank you for asking.
I want to end the cash bail system for nonviolent, low-level offenders.
Yeah.
Just little things like that, which I think will go over well. I'm looking for policies that are not going to cost too much money. I mean, that's the big thing, so I can really hang my head on that. But yeah, I am going to lean into the fact that I am a regular person. And I think, if some certain things come to light because of that, I think if I go as that persona, like I'm an average person, I'm a teacher for the last 10 years, but I'm an average Joe just like you, and then maybe something comes out, and I had no WI when I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
If he really wants to start digging, there's a sandbox full of shit.
So you basically just lead with that, and yeah. Wow.
Hey, Barry.
Hey, what's up?
Who moved the rock, Barry?
Wednesday. I forgot it was Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
My physical therapy got switched to Tuesday, so my days are still a little weird.
So
when your wife doesn't have a weekend, you lose track of days.
She works 7 days a week or something?
She has Thursday. She works 6 days a week most weeks, but she has Thursday off or Tuesday.
So can I tell you guys about the how my? So today was a day this evening was an evening I'll remember for the rest of my life. It was particularly eventful. So my dog, big dog, Lance has seen it, St. Bernard, 150 pounds. I thought my dog pissed on the carpet. And there's it's on the carpet that goes right before we get into the kitchen. And because we never finished the kitchen, I thought some of the dog piss might have seeped under the tiles. So I didn't think that yet. I just cleaned up the dog pee and I went about my day, because I don't go to work until noon now. And I was shooting videos and I was doing various different things. And then I come back and it's still wet. I'm so I clean it up again. And then I go to work, come home, we have dinner. I notice the pee spot's still there. And I'm like, what the hell? What the hell's with this pee spot? Game night's about to start because I have game night every Wednesday night. So I got people in my living room. We're chit-chatting. It's a big day because it's going to be my 7-year-old son. Well, he's about to be 7. My 6-year-old son, Sean, first game with game night. We got him villainous for Christmas. He's big into the Disney movies now because we had Disney Plus. He was very excited about it. I was like, all right. I talked to my game night. They were cool with playing with him. We're going to play it tonight. I was very excited about it. But the pee spot, I'm cleaning up the pee spot. And as I'm walking through the kitchen, I start to notice that when I step, some of the tiles are oozing up liquid.
Oh, dear.
And I'm like, and we got a big dog. This dog can piss for days. So pretty sure dog piss under all my tiles, seeping up. Every time we step, just a little dog piss, just spray it up a little bit. And we got people in the living room right now because game night started. Sean's like, "Can we go downstairs, Dad? Can we go downstairs?" And I'm just like, be careful walking through." And I'm very blunt and honest with my game night. I'm like, that is not water. You might want to put on your shoes. That's dog piss coming up through the tiles, because you can see the dog piss coming up. And so I play villainous with Sean. Melina's mad because I'm like, we're going to have to rip up the tiles. I'm going to have to clean it all out. I'll take care of it. But she's mad. She's cleaning stuff up. Sean's so excited, so I'm playing villainous. We're playing the game. It lasts a little bit too long because somebody had some AP. I come back upstairs, and the moral of the story, the good part of the story is it was not dog piss seeping up.
I was hoping. Yeah.
It was the fact that a mouse had chewed through our cord that shoots the water into the refrigerator to make the ice and the water. We got a fancy fridge for our wedding present, and a mouse had chewed through the little cord because we have a mouse problem in our house, and the water, just a little spray had soaked up the entire under it. So I spent the last 2 hours because I skipped the last 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours since I skipped the last night of game night, ripping up the tile and cleaning up the water. And but long story short, me and my wife decided we're having another kid. So
that's a bit of a non sequitur.
Yeah, actually, it was a deeply emotional thing there where we were fighting, and she was really, because we had bed bugs 2 years ago, and that was like the first time we ever talked about divorce together. We talked about it 2 or 3 times. The day and a half we had bed bugs. So I sincerely understand why bed bugs can ruin people's lives, because we've never talked about it in 4 or 5 years of being married. Get bed bugs, talk about it 2 or 3 times in a day and a half. But we've been fighting a lot lately. And we're having problems. But there's stuff that we're working through slowly. And one of the big things is we're talking about whether or not we want to have a kid. And so I was just taking care of this. We were mad at each other, and it just kind of dawned on me that I would rather be pissed off at the time, thinking I'm covered in fucking dog piss all over myself. My game night's going on downstairs, and everybody's going to think that it's just the pissiest house ever. And I was like, and I would still rather be here with my wife, fighting with her, than anywhere else. And I was just like, that's how I feel. And she was like, I feel the same way. And I was like, let's get your pirate hook taken out, and let's have another baby, because we had been talking about it. I know she wanted it, and I wanted it. And so, we decided we're having another kid.
Wow.
So it was a very deeply emotional night. Also, I got an application to fill out for a job that my very good friend works for, so I'd have an amazing recommendation there, which would be a $15,000 raise. It would be way better health benefits. It would be way better retirement benefits. I'd be working for the YMCA, essentially doing what my boss is doing. And don't use kids to fix relationships. That's a fair point, Kabuki, but we've been talking about it. This was more about our 3-year-old having some problems than anything. But so today was an incredibly eventful evening, which was filled with very, very highs and very, very lows.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I'm glad everybody's here, because
so you're being so forthcoming. My first question is, why have another kid instead of adopt, when there's so many kids out there that need homes?
Adoption is very costly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over $20,000.
Yeah.
The adopting parents have to pay to buy a child?
Yep. Yes. Oh my God. Richard,
no, I know nothing about it.
Richard, you don't look into it. You will be fucking irate. You want to know?
All I know is pop culture. There's always the thing about how, can we actually prove that we're worthwhile parents? And so I assume there's hoops about that kind of.
No, the adoption fees and stuff are anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 to adopt, depending on what type of kid you want, how old, and what race and all that. It can get upwards of $50,000-$60,000.
It's insanity. It is such an issue in our country. It's not
as cheap as you would think it would be, considering our problem with homeless children. But it is extremely expensive to adopt. The fees, all the stuff they require you to do, it costs tens of thousands of dollars.
It also, and fostering is another thing, but we actually, me and my wife got into a fight about fostering a kid. After we watched that Mark Wahlberg movie that came out about 1.5 years ago. We went and saw it, where he has like...
Wait, which movie?
It's actually a really good
Not
movie.
The Happening.
No. I'll look it up after I tell you. But it's actually a damn good movie. I would recommend it. But I had said, because I was like, yeah, we should foster a third kid. I think that'd be great, especially maybe it was more like a troubled teenage kid kind of situation, because I could really, potentially resonate with them and have empathy for them and feel them, because I went through a lot of that same stuff. And she took that as being, you don't want to have another child with me, which, it is what it is what it is. But so yeah, I think she would definitely want to do it with the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what is that Mark Wahlberg movie?
That's the important thing. Jeez,
Instant Family.
Why does it cost so much to adopt a child?
Because they got to make money somehow.
It's all the child.
Because they use that money because they have such high overhead housing these kids and feeding them and all that stuff. It's just like it's almost like a kennel to them, and they got to cover their fees and all that stuff, and they don't make it cheap. Not by a long shot.
Wow, indeed.
Well, I guess that answers the question anyway.
Now you know why most people don't adopt. Most average people can't adopt.
Yeah. I have to admit, I'd always been kind of looking down my nose at having another kid when there's so many. Why don't you just go adopt? Well, I guess that's why.
Should send a tweet to Andrew Yang.
Can you get him on a layaway plan?
No.
This is Kmart.
You got to take a mortgage out on them next.
Yeah, the national average, depending on where you live and all the circumstances, could be anywhere from 2,500 to 45,000.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah.
And actually, there is adoption assistance plans you can get.
Yeah. You have to qualify. There's a whole different criteria and all that stuff. But yeah, the average independent adoption's like 38 grand.
Well, yeah. Why do you think all the celebrities, they go to Africa to adopt? It's cheaper there.
I feel like they can afford the money.
Yeah, I feel like part of the fee is also it's more of a way to weed out people that are just doing it for this. Like if you can afford to adopt a child, then you can afford to give them a good life. I think that could be part of it, but it's probably not the main reason. The main reason is probably because the government is just the agencies that run these things need to make money to cover their expenses.
Yeah.
That's what everything is now.
I guess, yeah.
But I mean, if you can afford to put up that kind of money to adopt a kid, you probably can afford to make sure that they have a good life. And that could be, maybe that was the intent originally. I don't know if that's what it is now.
Sorry, I was laughing at Chad Roberts' comment. Good campaign slogan, Bauer. Yeah. That's not dog piss under the tiles.
I think you've got your campaign manager there.
So what's your next step before the 4 years? You're announcing for 2024. What's your next step?
Well, I plan on posting every day on my Facebook and my Twitter about both local politics and national politics. I plan on starting to canvass at least 30 minutes to an hour a day and just walking around different neighborhoods and talking to people. I ordered some business cards. I have the big thing is February 29th. I have and it is a leap year. They're not fucking with me. I have a meeting with the Democratic Party, and they got like a big thing set up for candidate training. So they're going to train everybody, and that'll be a chance. I think a couple of the members of the city council are going to be there to answer questions and rub elbows, get us all set up, and hopefully make some connections go from there. And I mean, because honestly, and I was writing it down. I was talking to my wife about it. It sounds really. So I've worked for 10 years as an educator, and I've volunteered for 10 years at Aaron's House, which is this big nonprofit in my community in Fort Wayne that is kids who have lost someone, parents, brothers. So they go there, they talk about their feelings. We have camps, we do activities, and I volunteered there for 10 years. And I born and raised in Fort Wayne, and I was like, damn, this actually sounds good. Like, this sounds like a good little bio right here.
Yeah.
And I just have
if you omit the years of traveling the United States doing all the drugs you possibly could do, and
that's really a problem. I mean, come on, look, the baby boomers came out, they smoked weed and they did all that shit. I don't think that's really an issue anymore.
I'm not trying to run Forrest in the ground, but I remember like he and we went to dinner at Origins. And I remember I was like, so tell me a little bit about yourself. And you were like, well, once I got 18, I came into some money. And so what'd you do? I was like, I bought a van and drove around just doing a bunch of drugs and sleeping in the back of my van until my money ran out. And I said, well, good for you. Forrest just started laughing.
So I can resonate with people living out of a van. I mean, I can. No, but I think that's, yeah. I just want to do a lot for the homeless people, and in particular, it's the parents, because man, it's just heartbreaking stuff I hear. I work with 25 kids, and when mom and dad aren't there, and it's just us talking, and I'm a very formal person with the kids. I have adult conversations with them. I mean, let me rephrase that.
You may want to rephrase that.
I talk like an adult with the kids. We talk about our problems and what goes on at home, and a little bit of
take off our pants.
We smoke some pot.
But no, so
all the videos to scrub for the internet for his campaign.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I'm waiting in 2023.
Forrest's new campaign
Forrest
slogan.
is going to send me an email that says, I'm going to need you to delete this Alaboom and this Alaboom.
No. Forrest's new campaign slogan, Forrest Bauer, pot for the children.
Yeah.
We need to
All right. Before this conversation gets any more criminally charging here, I got to get to bed. It is 1 a.m. I've said my piece. Endgame is one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. Don't care what Lance says. And other than that, Jaws rules.
Good night, Peter.
Good night.
No, my dad, he taught school for 38 years, and then he said he always wanted to run for public office, and so yeah, he was after he got done, he was a state senator for, what was it, 10 years?
Wow.
8 years? Yeah.
Straight from civilian to state senator, or?
Well, like the state, like the not like, you know, he was, you know, for, you know, like the state legislature, you know, he was a representative for 4 years. He was a senator for 6, and then he was done. And he's like, I did what I wanted. Lee Meister. Yes.
12, candidate for District 46.
Yep. He said he liked it. He said it was fun. He lived in a hotel in Bismarck for a while.
You are his third child listed of 5.
Well, I am his third child of his 5.
Put in your place.
Yeah. No, I remember. Yeah, he was he was on like the education board and a couple other things. He said his most fun argument he had was arguing against these people wanted the right to drive their 4-wheeler off-road vehicles on the highway like a car, and he was like, no, this is stupid. You know, it's just like speaking of which, I almost saw somebody kill themselves in a snowmobile about a week ago. I was dropping off my daughter at a friend's house, and we had like a recent snowfall, and I saw this guy on a snowmobile. And if I had had a camera going, I could have uploaded it, and it would have been like, everybody would have loved it. So there's a big snowbank, and you're not supposed to drive your snowmobile around town anyway. So he must have been just farting around being stupid. And so he was in the road, and I was kind of seeing, I was coming on this little curve, and so I saw him, and he had gone up like this embankment of snow, and like he wasn't going fast enough, so he rolled back. And then he saw me coming. And he must have been thinking, "Oh gosh, I'm not supposed to ride my snowmobile," or something like that. But he wasn't aimed like directly at the little embankment that he was at. He was all kittywampus off to the side, and so he gunned the motor, and so he hit this embankment on an angle, and he literally like flew like the snowmobile when he went the other way, like a good 6 feet in the air, like fly in there, lands in the middle of the road. And I'm like, oh God, he's not wearing a helmet or anything. I stop, I get out of the car, and thankfully, like and like the snowmobile's like turned over. It's like it rolled a couple of times. I don't know if he did any damage to it or anything like that. And he got up and he was just laughing. Thank God. You know, I mean, he didn't crack his head open on the ground. You know, and I was like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm an idiot. He just got us over. He's on a snowmobile. I'm like, oh, I'm just like, oh, I'm really thankful that guy, because like he kind of landed on his back, and I thought maybe he like cracked his head on the, you know, like on the floor, but yeah, turns out he was okay. But I was just kind of like, yeah, there you go. You know, you don't get much snow in Fort Wayne though, do you?
No. We get a lot of ice. A lot of ice.
How do you not get snow but get ice?
We will get snow. When we get snow, we'll get like 4 or 5 inches, then we'll get maybe 3 inches another time. We don't get much snow, but when we do, we'll get like a bunch. Well, a bunch, quote unquote. And then the rest of the time, it's just so cold that the snow never goes away. so it just freezes, and we have lots of problem with ice.
It is minus 18 right now in Moorhead, Minnesota.
Well, it is substantially warmer here because I was in my attic and it was not that cold.
We're going to have one of these within 24 hours. The temperature is going to shift by 50 degrees and it will still be below freezing. Because we're going to get up to like 28, 29 degrees tomorrow. So it's just like, and it's supposed to get really, really cold tonight.
That sounds terrible.
Well, it's not like I'm outside dancing around in my shorts. I mean, like, we do have central heating, and I have.
Yeah, I just hate those days when your face hurts. Like, that's just the worst.
Well, you'd be a man and grow a beard, then you wouldn't have that.
I assume you have a generator, right? If you had a power outage.
No.
Really?
No.
So if you had a power outage for 24 hours.
Well, here's the deal. So okay. I don't have electric heat or anything like that. My heat is gas forced air. So it would have to get really, really bad because and then the actual the fans and everything like that do have a battery backup. So I can still heat my house for a little while after the power goes out. But I mean, the thing is that the house doesn't lose a lot of temperature. I mean, it would get cold. One year, this is maybe 8 or 9 years ago, there was a giant gas leak in Canada that actually reduced the amount of natural gas that our power, our energy power, was able to give to their customers. Mm-hmm. And so they actually had governors that would limit the heating. And so we would, and my son wasn't born yet. That's how long ago this was. It was the house, for about a week at night, the house would get down to about maybe 50, 48 degrees. And so it was just me, my wife, and my daughter all snuggled up in a one bed watching TV, staying warm.
Wow.
I don't think I'd go anywhere colder than I don't think I would go anywhere colder than Fort Wayne unless there was a dang good reason.
What good reason is there?
If there was a good paying, a good paying, or
there's other places warmer to have just as good jobs.
So is Scott not doing Zumba ever again? Where's he at?
I don't know.
Lance said that he was preparing for some Board Game Geek event, so that's taking up all his time at the moment.
Man, how's he so lucky to get to go to all those Board Game Geek events?
It's like he knows somebody.
So how have you been, Richard?
What's that?
How have you been?
I've been okay. Nothing much going on here. Found out I can't get LASIK for my eyes.
Sucks.
Yeah. World's smallest violin playing just for me.
No, I was actually really excited about getting LASIK when I heard that job opportunity because I was dripping what is it? Not asbestos, the insulation, because some of the water had seeped through down into the basement, so the insulation was all wet. And I was I was standing on top of my dryer, crouched over, my glasses kept falling off, so I couldn't see anything. And I was just like, God damn, this is one of those situations that, I feel for you. I bet I have a situation like that every day if I really thought about it.
Yeah. Oh well, it's fine. I'll survive. Lots of people have worn glasses for a long time, and they seem to be okay. So I can't complain too much. But that's about it. That's all I got.
So what do you think about Yang not making the debate? I just want Iowa and New Hampshire to happen, just so I know. Just so I know.
Just to get it done.
It's going to happen. Is because there's so many positive signs. like in California, where they didn't even have him on the damn ballot, and he still finished at 3% in write-ins. Like, and then I actually posted a picture today from a poll, I think it was like in Florida, where he's at 5%, and I started to dig through the actual poll and look at the numbers, and it was 50% of it was people. It was like 50% were done on landlines, and 66% of them were done on landlines, and 50% of the people were 50 or older, and we still hit 5%. And I'm just expecting, like, damn. So what are we missing? 5, 10, 15% that we might potentially still have? Like, are we about to uncover a glacier of support we don't even know about? It's really exciting.
I just want to go into a coma for the next month.
Yeah.
Wake up and know one way or the other, because it is driving me nuts.
And, like, I want him on that stage so bad. And it's
Did you watch?
I did not.
Yeah, I couldn't. I
was the first one. But I said, I did Yang Media Black, and I was like, I'm going to follow through on this. And I watched some clips today, but and here's the thing. Like, they're going to have to change the debate criteria in the future if it turns out, he gets into Iowa and he hits 13, 14, 15%. Like, if even if it hits 10%, it just looks real bad on them.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I understand on the surface their restrictions are perfectly reasonable. What, if you can't get 5%, why are you even trying? But it's just the polls are not really reflective because of all the outliers, because people don't have landlines anymore. People don't answer, unsolicited calls anymore. The only ones who do are old people. Old people don't want to give money to other people, basically. Did
you see the YouGov polls? The big controversy about that?
Oh, how they were leaving off?
Yeah. So everybody else that was on the list got 7% or higher. You had to click on other to get to Andrew Yang. And it's like, well, yeah, of course. He's not going to be polling higher. Why the hell do you have to click an extra button to get to him? Because here's the thing. If you haven't taken one of those YouGov polls, you want to fucking just punch yourself in the face because they're so boring. They're like 5 to 8 minutes of just answering the stupidest questions. Here's 30 companies. Have you heard anything positive about these companies? Check mark ones they have. Have you heard anything negative? And it's just like, ugh. Nobody's going to click other.
Yeah.
They know nobody's going to click other, too. I failed. I do not believe that is an accident. If you can give me 30, dishwasher detergent brands, but you can't put 8 candidates on that list, I think it's all dickery.
Yeah.
Well, like many years ago, it's politicking. I mean, many years ago, before North Dakota passed a law that basically made smoking indoors in any public space illegal. Like you had to, if you were going to smoke, you had to be outside more than 30 feet away from a door. But the first time they put it on the ballot, and I can't possibly explain it well enough, but they politicked it so well to basically have, because they knew the people that ran restaurants and bars knew that it by their establishments becoming forced to be non-smoking, they knew they were going to lose money, because these were places where people would go and they'd want to be able to drink their alcohol and also smoke their cigarettes and whatever. And so the thing about it was that they basically made it so, like, instead of having like a yes or no, like, do you want to have a smoking ban or not, they had like 4 choices of each. The verbiage was progressively weirder in each one of the like things. And if you voted on multiple things, your vote didn't count, because it didn't make sense, because you could only vote for one. And basically you had to, if you wanted to like vote against basically smoking in public places, you had to like check the third one. Like mark the third box. Anything else was basically saying it's okay to have smoking in bars and restaurants or something like that. And of course, this is in North Dakota like 15 years ago. And then so it didn't pass. And so so for 2 more years, they fought it and fought it and fought it. But then 2 years, they actually just made it a yes or no. Do you want smoking banned and all indoors? Yes or no? And it was just like, and then it was like 87% of the people said yes, and it was just like, and it went through like a hot knife going through butter. But I mean, that's just what you're saying. Like you have to click on this just to get to Andrew Yang. Yeah, it's totally politic, man. I mean, if I mean that's just the way it goes. I mean, it's just and that's I mean. That's the Democrats. I mean that's they don't want you to have those choices. They don't want you to those politicians do not want you to have Andrew Yang as being a viable choice because the old guard is in there. They are indentured. They have their promises. They have their things that they're being held to. That if I'm elected, I have these 73 things that people are going to call in their debts, and I got to play the game. But if you have, it's one of those things where it's like, but if you have some complete roustabout to show up out of nowhere and inspire the masses, they don't want that. And so of course they're going to have it. Oh yeah, click through and find the other person. Because the sad thing is that in the case that I told you about like 15 years ago in North Dakota, the number one newspaper in North Dakota, the Fargo Forum, which if people bought a newspaper, the Fargo Forum was on there, and they were one of the biggest proponents of professing the smoking ban was a smart thing to do. They had front page news stories every day, about how they were trying to make that a convoluted mess. And they actually had step by step. If you want the smoking ban to go through, this is how you vote. If you don't, this is how you should vote. And it was like, if anybody just even read it, it was like, just by the numbers. This is what you should do. They even encouraged, there was even one that had the dotted line around it. Cut this out and bring it with you when you go and vote.
You needed a strategy guide.
Yeah. Just kind of thing, because they knew that they were trying to just make it a convoluted mess. And it was all the best efforts, but it was still 60% voted nope, smoke wherever you want, and it was just okay, this is ridiculous. And then and the thing was, it was what a few people said. I mean, some of the bar owners stuff, they were against it totally, but they were just well, you know what? My customers have spoken, right? It's these are the people that I want to come to my place and drink and enjoy their evenings. They're telling me they don't want that in here. Well, then I need to listen to them, which is, the right attitude to have. But man, they fought it tooth and nail. And every single time you'd go into a bar, there was somebody there that was especially 1 year after the smoking ban went into effect, there were people every bar, there was always some yahoo in there collecting signatures about we need to put the voting ban back on the ballot, trying to collect signatures to get people. And the arguments were always so stupid. It was just it's actually, no, I really like coming here and not having to shower as soon as I get home, because I don't reek. And it's just well, if that's what you want, why can't you just drink at home? And I was well, why can't you just drink at home and smoke all the cigarettes you want? It's well, we shouldn't have to. I don't know why, but this is a ridiculous argument. But I think it's really admirable that I mean, you're taking a step. Most people talk about saying things oh man, and I'm not trying to butter your buns here, but a lot of people say, oh man, it'd be really cool to run for office someday. I mean, my wife has told me repeatedly that I should run for the school board. And I'm just I don't know if I really want to do that. I mean, I've looked into it, but I've always just that seems like a lot of effort, and there's a lot of people that are just ingrained in those roles, and you're just but yeah, I mean, to go through it and go through the process, and I mean, you're a forward thinker, Forrest. I mean,
yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, money where your
mouth is. Journey, no matter what happens.
And this is, I mean, and this is how I mean, political careers can start with just something as simple as this too. So,
and and even if you don't win, even if you just scare them and push them in a certain direction, I mean, that's a victory too.
Well, there's also the fact that if I don't win this one, from what they said, it would probably be easier to run at large because
What's that mean?
So how the at large works is so you have 6 districts in Fort Wayne, and then we have 3 at large candidates. So there's 9 total city council members. So I live in district number 2, so I can either run as the candidate for district number 2, or I can run as what's called an at large candidate, which means you represent the entire city of Fort Wayne. So, you want to appeal to the whole city of Fort Wayne, and they normally put 3 Republicans on that ballot and 3 Democrats on that ballot, who obviously have elections before then to decide who those 3 are. And then you get to vote from all 6 of the people. And most of the time, because it is the local level, it's just a straight party ticket. But, sometimes people mix it up. This time we actually got, I believe, 2 Democrats and a Republican. So it was, I believe, 7-2 4 years ago, and now it's 5-4. So the tide might be changing, and hopefully I could be that 5 that flips over to the Democrat side. You never know. That'd be really cool. And also on an interesting side, also another guy I went to high school with, who me and Phil both played fantasy football with, actually. And our league is running as well in 2023. We graduated like 2 years apart, and he is a very red Republican, but he's a nice guy, and he's actually been giving me some advice because he ran, I think, last year and lost. But he's like, just getting your name out there. The people that you met personally will still remember you. They're always going to remember you because you came to their door and talked to them. So you get out, you do that, and then you get a bigger base growing. So it's interesting.
How much is going to cost you to run?
That is the question. Right now, it's $12.73. I got my campaign expenses.
Nice. 500
business cards. And I'm going to go from there. And that's hopefully something that I'm going to find out at that meeting. Because what my sister-in-law, who actually works down at the lawyer's office, was because my mom, oh my God, my wife said that her side of the family thought I was fucking nuts. Those were her exact words. But she said she was pretty sure that once you turn in signatures, or maybe before you turn in the signatures, if you seem like a serious candidate, the Democratic Party will actually give you a stipend to get you started. Mm-hmm. So that could be potentially awesome, because I think what I'd probably spend it on is just getting some essentials, business cards, flyers, printing stuff, but also getting some yard signs. But you know what? It's so far off. I don't know if I want yard signs yet. I don't know. But either way, that would be very exciting. And if not, I would I don't know what the hell I'd do. I would look into it from other candidates. I would ask other candidates and see from there.
Are you going to have a sign that says, "I promise to see the forest for the trees"?
That sounds like the exact opposite thing that I would ever say. I think I'd put that before it would come out of my mouth. May the odds be ever with you.
That was not a politician answer. You got to say, I'll take it under advisement.
Yeah.
What?
Who was in our fantasy football league that ran?
Joseph Townsend.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, this is Phil, by the way. He's my roommate now. We've been good friends for a long time. He was a roommate before. So
still underachieving.
Well, then clearly you don't need to have another kid. You've got one.
But he bought the kids bunk beds, and we moved them into one room. And they were very excited about it.
Wow. You have a very fascinating life.
I tell my wife that there's a lot of things you can say about me, but your life will be interesting for the rest of it if you're roommate, because...
Yeah, what does she think about you running? Actually.
She put it like this. She said, I know that whatever you put your mind to, you can accomplish, because she's seen me do with other things before.
I've doubted you before, and I've seen it work. So for me to say otherwise is...
I think once people get past the initial shock, because I am me. I am me. I am not a teacher. I am not a politician. When you look at me, you're not saying, man, that guy, I bet he's a hell of an educator. Man, that guy would make a great fucking politician. You just don't think that about me. And I think that's, I've always just done that. I've always wanted to be someone who was doing something different, and she loves me, and she said she would support me, and I've talked to her about how it could potentially change our lives. She's not the hottest on it, but she's supporting it. And I think it's the kind of thing where, and she knows I'm in it for the right reasons. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, she thinks about it from our perspective, and I think about it from this perspective of, I hear these kids telling me sometimes that mom didn't make dinner last night, so they had to fend for what was in there, and there wasn't anything they liked, and so they just didn't have dinner. I hear the stories about, the phone getting cut off. Mom doesn't have a phone right now, or, we had to take. I've seen kids walk to the bus, get picked up by their mom, walk to the bus stop in the kind of weather that you're talking about in Fargo, freezing weather, because they're getting picked up at 6:00 and wait at the bus stop. And so I see, and I work with those kids, and she knows that I'm doing it for the right reasons. And it's hard to really argue against somebody when they have good intentions a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And so she supports it, and I think she's going to support it more and more as it grows, hopefully. But yeah, she gave me her blessing, even though it was rocky somewhere.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and I wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to watching from the sidelines, because I'm too old and tired to do much more than cheer you on.
Well, thank you.
I'm sure it'll be interesting. I look forward to hearing the latest
adventures. Yeah.
No matter what, it's going to be a story. I'll have a story to tell. I'll have one of those in my back pocket. Be like, ever tell you about the time I ran for politics?
Yeah.
And then we'll say, yes, we heard it. Put the weed away.
But that was a good line to end on, because I'm about ready to go, I think.
Yeah, I think that's good. You'll have to try to show up a little sooner next time. They're my pea-covered tile friend.
Well, hopefully the floors will not be spewing out any liquids next time we meet.
It's always a plus.
Always a plus. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us. I don't know. We'll meet again next week, I'm sure. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what we'll dissect or anything like that. Maybe argue about who was the best Bond or something dumb like that.
Wait, could we maybe next week we talk about some one of those things called, we used to play them all the time back in the day. Board games. Yeah,
we did talk about board games for a little while today.
Yeah,
I always missed that. We need to start scheduling that for like the middle.
Okay, we'll schedule it for the middle then.
All right,
you heard it here first. Exactly. Board games we'll talk about in the middle next week.
In the second act.
Yes.
Good night, everyone. Your RPGs in the beginning.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm gonna say good night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.